3 minutes before the most powerful man in Chicago destroyed her life, Selena Moretti was holding a blood-stained tablecloth. This isn't a love story. This is a story of survival, about an ordinary girl thrown into the center of a mafia war she didn't know she belonged to, where bullets fly faster than promises, where power is fueled by blood and family secrets. Follow this story to the end. Like. And comment the name of the city you're watching. Let me know how far this story has come. Now, let me tell you what happened that night in Chicago. The rain came down like punishment. Not the romantic kind you see in movies, the kind that soaks through cheap shoes and turns city streets into black mirrors reflecting neon sins. Selena Moretti felt every cold drop as she sprinted across Michigan Avenue, her server's apron plastered against her ribs, her breath coming in ragged gasps that tasted like exhaust fumes and desperation. She was 20 minutes late for her second shift. Again. The revolving door of the Aurelius Tower spat her into a marble lobby where everything cost more than her life. Security guards in suits that actually fit watched her drip puddles across imported Italian tile. She didn't make eye contact. People like her, broke, exhausted, invisible, learned early not to look people like them in the eye. The service elevator smelled like bleach and someone else's cigarette break. Selena checked her reflection in the scratched metal door. Mascara running. Hair escaping its bun in wet tendrils. The name tag pinned to her chest, Selena M., hung crooked. She straightened it with shaking fingers. 34th floor. The elevator lurched upward, and her stomach dropped. Not from the motion, from the fact that she'd promised herself 6 months ago this was temporary, just until she paid down her grandmother's medical bills, just until she caught her breath. That was 14 months ago. The elevator doors opened onto controlled chaos. Constellation, the kind of rooftop restaurant where reservations required 3 months' notice and a credit card that didn't flinch at 4-digit charges. Crystal chandeliers caught the city lights outside floor-to-ceiling windows. Waiters moved like dancers through tables packed with Chicago's elite. Politicians, CEOs, the kind of people who controlled the world from cushioned chairs while drinking wine that cost more than Selena's monthly rent. "You're late." Marco, the floor manager, appeared beside her like a shark sensing blood. 40-something, cologne too heavy, smile too sharp. "Third time this month." "The train?" "I don't care about the train." He stepped closer. Selena smelled garlic and something sour underneath. "You got Section 7 tonight, VIP. 1 table. Private guest requested the balcony." Section 7 was the corner booth with the retractable glass panels. The spot where Chicago's real power brokers conducted business they couldn't afford to have recorded. Selena had served there twice before. Once for a hedge fund manager. Once for a woman who never spoke above a whisper, but had 2 bodyguards standing 6 feet away the entire dinner. "Who's the guest?" Marco's smile sharpened. "The kind that tips in thousands. Or gets people fired. Don't screw this up." He walked away, leaving Selena standing there with rain still dripping from her hair. She tied on a fresh apron, checked her reflection in a wine glass, forced her expression into something resembling pleasant professionalism, the mask she wore every shift, every day, every moment she walked through this glittering world that would never belong to her. Then she grabbed a water pitcher and stepped into Section 7. The man at the table didn't look up. He sat with his back to the windows, Chicago's skyline reduced to a backdrop behind his shoulders. Dark suit. No tie. The kind of expensive simplicity that screamed wealth so old it didn't need to prove anything. His hands rested on the white tablecloth. No rings, no watch, just the faint scar across his left knuckles that told stories he'd never speak aloud. Selena approached carefully. Something about him set off alarm bells she didn't fully understand. "Good evening. My name is Selena. I'll be—" "Sit down." His voice hit her like cold water. Not loud. Quiet, actually, but carrying the weight of someone who'd never had an order questioned in his life. Selena froze. "I'm sorry, I said sit." He still hadn't looked at her. "You're about to drop that pitcher." She glanced down. He was right. Her hands were shaking so badly the water sloshed against the glass rim. Slowly she set the pitcher down, glanced toward the bar where Marco was watching. He made a sharp gesture. "Handle it." Selena pulled out the chair across from the man and sat on its edge, ready to bolt. Finally, he looked up. The world narrowed to two dark eyes that saw too much. Dominic Vale. She didn't recognize him immediately, not from sight, but the name whispered itself through her consciousness like something she'd always known but tried to forget. Dominic Vale. The man who owned half of Chicago's downtown real estate. The name that showed up in business sections and vanished from gossip columns. The billionaire whose family history got quietly edited out of Wikipedia articles, and whose photograph never appeared in the society pages despite being invited to everything. There were rumors, of course, whispers about the Vale family's real business, about connections to old-world crime families, about money laundered so cleanly through legitimate enterprises that even federal investigators found nothing but paperwork and shell corporations leading to dead ends. "You speak Italian," he said. Not a question. What? The hostess mentioned it. When your application came across her desk, you listed Italian as a second language. Selina's pulse hammered in her throat. My grandmother taught me, but I don't see why. Dimmi come si chiama tua nonna. Tell me your grandmother's name. The Italian rolled off his tongue like he'd been born in Rome, not Chicago. Perfect accent, no hesitation. Selina stared at him. Every instinct screamed to stand up and walk away. But she'd learned long ago that men like Dominic Vale didn't make requests. They gave orders disguised as questions. Lucia, she answered quietly. Lucia Moretti. Something changed in his expression, not shock exactly, more like a puzzle piece sliding into place with an audible click. Moretti? He repeated slowly. Di dove? From where? I don't... Selina's hands twisted in her lap. My grandmother came from Sicily, but she never talked about it. She died 2 years ago. Dominic leaned back in his chair, studied her with the intensity of someone cataloging details for later use, the curve of her jaw, the shape of her eyes, the way she held herself, shoulders hunched, ready to apologize for taking up space. Did she ever mention Palermo? He asked. No? Corleone? Selina's breath caught. That's just a movie. It's also a real town. His gaze never wavered. Did your grandmother ever mention the name Matteo Moretti? The room tilted. Selina gripped the edge of the table. How do you know that name? So she did. That was my grandfather. I never met him. He died before I was born. Her voice came out sharper than intended, anger replacing fear. Who the hell are you? Someone who knew him. Dominic's expression remained unreadable. Someone who made him a promise. What promise? But Dominic was already standing. He pulled a business card from his pocket and placed it on the table. Heavy cardstock, no logo, just a phone number embossed in silver. Go home tonight, Selina. Pack a bag. 1 bag. Don't tell anyone where you're going. I'm not going anywhere. Yes, you are. He buttoned his jacket with the casual precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Because in approximately 4 hours, people who shouldn't know you exist are going to come looking for you. And if I'm not there to stop them, you're going to disappear. Selina shot to her feet. You're insane. Look at me and tell me I'm lying. She did. Met those dark eyes head on despite the fear crawling up her spine. He wasn't lying. Whatever this was, however he knew her family name, her grandmother's history, the grandfather she'd never met. Dominic Vale believed every word he'd just said. Call me when you get home, he said quietly. Or don't. But either way, lock your doors tonight. All of them. He walked away before she could respond, moving through Constellation's glittering crowd like smoke through a cathedral. Within seconds, he'd vanished into the private elevator reserved for VIPs, the one that descended directly to the parking garage where drivers waited in cars worth more than Selina's entire life. She stood frozen at the table staring at the business card. Behind her, Marco's voice cut through the noise. What the hell was that? Selina turned. I don't know. Did he leave a tip? She glanced down. Beneath the business card sat $500 bills, crisp and new. Her hands went numb. He left something, she whispered. The train ride home took 45 minutes. Selina spent every second staring at the business card in her palm, watching the embossed numbers catch the fluorescent lights overhead. Around her, late-night commuters dozed or scrolled through phones, oblivious to the fact that her entire reality had just fractured. People who shouldn't know you exist are going to come looking for you. She should call the police. That was the rational response. File a report about a wealthy man making cryptic threats in a public restaurant. But something stopped her. The way Dominic Vale had said her grandfather's name. Like it meant something. Like it carried weight beyond old photographs and faded memories. Selena's grandmother had refused to talk about the past. Every question about Sicily, about family, about the life before Chicago. Shut down with sharp words or long silences. When Lucia Moretti died, she took those secrets with her, or so Selena had thought. The train screeched to her stop. Selena shoved the card into her pocket and stepped onto the platform. 31st Street Station. The neighborhood where rent was cheap because safety was expensive. Boarded up storefronts, graffiti tags marking invisible borders. The kind of place where police response times measured in hours, not minutes. Home was a fourth-floor walk-up in a building that leaned slightly left. Selena climbed the stairs two at a time, keys already in her hand. The hallway smelled like cabbage and someone's weed habit. She unlocked 3 separate deadbolts. The apartment was dark, cold. One bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet, bathroom with tiles falling off the walls. But it was hers. Had been hers and her grandmother's before the cancer diagnosis. Now it was just hers and the medical bills that arrived every month like clockwork. Selena dropped her bag on the sagging couch, kicked off her shoes, started toward the bathroom. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She stared at the screen. Let it ring twice, 3 times. Against every screaming instinct, she answered, "You made it home." Dominic Vale's voice filled her ear, calm and certain. "Good. How did you get my number?" "The same way I know you live alone. The same way I know your cousin Ava is in nursing school at Northwestern. The same way I know you've been working 3 jobs to pay off debt that isn't even yours." Selena's blood went cold. "Stay away from my cousin. I'm not the one she needs to worry about." "Then who?" Silence stretched between them. Not empty. Heavy with things he wasn't saying. "Pack the bag, Selena. I'll send a car in 3 hours. It'll be a black Mercedes, tinted windows. Driver's name is Marcus. Don't get in any other vehicle." "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Then you're going to die tonight." His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. "And so is Ava. Because the people coming for you don't negotiate. They don't leave witnesses. They solve problems with bullets and mass graves." Her hand shook so badly the phone nearly slipped. "Why me? I'm nobody." "No," Dominic said quietly. "You're Matteo Moretti's granddaughter, which makes you the most valuable person in Chicago right now, whether you understand it or not." The line went dead. Selena stood in the darkness of her apartment, phone pressed to her ear long after the call ended. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. She was a server with student loans and a studio apartment that smelled like mildew. Not someone important, not someone worth killing over family names she'd never understood. But Dominic Vale didn't seem like a man who wasted time on jokes. "Lock your doors tonight." All of them. Selena moved through the apartment mechanically, checked the deadbolts, tested the window locks, drew the curtains. Then she stood in the center of the living room, heart hammering, and pulled the business card from her pocket. Call him. Don't call him. Pack a bag. Stay here. Trust a stranger. Trust her own judgment. Every option felt like walking off a cliff. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number, but she knew who it was before opening it. "The Mercedes will be there at 2 a.m. Back entrance. Be ready." Selena typed back with shaking fingers. "How do I know you're not the one I should be afraid of?" The response came instantly. "You don't." She stared at the screen, waiting for more. Some reassurance. Some proof that getting into that car wouldn't be the worst mistake of her life. But Dominic Vale offered nothing except brutal honesty. Outside her window, Chicago glittered against the black sky. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. A car alarm shrieked and fell silent. The city breathing in its sleep. Indifferent to Selena's fear, her confusion, her instinct that the life she knew had just ended whether she understood why or not. She should run, pack Ava up and disappear to some small town where no one knew the name Moretti or Vale, or gave a damn about family legacies built on blood money and secrets. But where would they go? With what money? And how long before whoever was hunting her tracked them down? Selena walked into her bedroom, pulled an old duffel bag from the closet, stared at it like it might bite. Then, slowly, she began to pack. Whoa. The Mercedes arrived at exactly 2 a.m. Selena watched from her window as the black sedan pulled into the alley behind her building. No headlights, engine purring quietly in the darkness. For 5 full minutes, nothing happened. The car simply sat there, waiting. Her packed duffel bag rested by the door. One change of clothes, toiletries, her grandmother's rosary. The only thing of value Lucia had owned. Selena's hand hovered over it, then dropped. She grabbed the bag, locked the apartment behind her for what felt like the last time. The stairs creaked under her weight. At the ground floor, the back exit opened onto the alley where dumpsters overflowed and broken glass crunched underfoot. The Mercedes' rear door opened. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, black, early 40s, wearing a driver's uniform that somehow looked like tactical gear. His eyes swept the alley with professional precision. "Selena Moretti?" She nodded, throat too tight for words. "I'm Marcus." He took her bag without asking. "We need to leave. Now." "Where are we?" "Car. Now." The urgency in his voice killed her questions. Selena climbed into the back seat, leather interior, tinted windows so dark the world outside became shadows and streetlight halos. Marcus slid behind the wheel and the car moved immediately. Smooth, fast, no hesitation. They drove in silence for 10 minutes. 15. Selena watched familiar streets blur past. They were heading north, away from her neighborhood, away from downtown, toward the neighborhoods where money bought privacy and security cameras covered every angle. "Where's Dominic?" she finally asked. "Handling some complications." Marcus's eyes flicked to the rear-view mirror, watching traffic, watching everything. "He'll meet us at the safe house." "What complications?" "The kind that involve body counts." Selena's stomach dropped. "What?" But Marcus had gone tense. His hand moved to something under the dashboard. "We've got a tail." She twisted in her seat. Behind them, 2 sets of headlights wove through traffic, moving too fast, too deliberately. "They're not even being subtle about it," Marcus muttered. He grabbed a phone from the center console, hit speed dial. "It's Marcus. We're burned. 2 vehicles, maybe 3. Heading north on Lakeshore Drive. Copy." He dropped the phone and floored it. The Mercedes surged forward with the kind of power that pressed Selena back into leather seats. The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80. Around them, late-night traffic became obstacles to swerve around. "Put your seatbelt on," Marcus ordered. "Now!" Selena fumbled with the buckle, fingers numb with terror. Behind them, the headlights closed distance. "Who are they?" "People you don't want to meet." Marcus yanked the wheel hard right, sending them onto an exit ramp at speeds that made the tires scream. "And they're not here to talk." The Mercedes rocketed down side streets. Selena grabbed the door handle as they took a corner on what felt like 2 wheels. Her breath came in short gasps. This wasn't happening. This was a nightmare. Any second she'd wake up in her apartment with the alarm screaming and another double shift waiting. Gunfire shattered that illusion. The rear windshield exploded inward in a spray of safety glass. Selena screamed. Marcus cursed and swerved. More shots. The distinctive crack, crack, crack of automatic weapons punching holes through metal and leather. "Get down!" Marcus roared. Selena threw herself onto the floor, hands over her head, every muscle locked in pure animal terror. Above her, more windows shattered. The car swerved violently. Something metal shrieked. Collision? Corner? She couldn't tell. Couldn't think past the overwhelming certainty that she was about to die. Then everything went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Worse. The quiet after a bomb goes off and your ears haven't started working again. The Mercedes had stopped moving. Selena lifted her head slowly. They were in some kind of underground parking garage. Concrete pillars, flickering fluorescent lights. Marcus slumped in the driver's seat, blood spreading across his shoulder. "Marcus, run." He pushed open his door with a shaking hand. "Service elevator, corner, go." "I'm not leaving you." You don't have a choice. He pulled a gun from under the dashboard. Black, heavy. The kind of weapon that meant serious business. They're coming. I'll buy you time. Run. Selena's hands closed on the door handle. Every instinct screamed to help him, but Marcus was already moving, dragging himself out of the car, leaving a blood trail across concrete. Headlights swept into the garage. Go! Marcus bellowed. Selena ran. Her shoes slapped concrete. Her breath tore through her lungs. Behind her, voices shouted in a language she didn't recognize. Harsh syllables, angry commands. Then gunfire erupted again. She didn't look back. Couldn't. The service elevator Marcus mentioned loomed ahead, old industrial cage waiting in the corner shadows. She hit the button, waited an eternity of 3 seconds for doors to rattle open, threw herself inside, slammed every button on the panel. The elevator lurched upward as men burst into the garage below. Selena caught one glimpse of Marcus firing from behind a concrete pillar before the floor cut off her view. Then she was rising, away from the gunfire, away from Marcus who might be dying to buy her escape, away from her old life toward something she couldn't understand and didn't want. The elevator shuddered to a stop on the ground floor. Doors opened onto an abandoned building, some old office complex, half-gutted for renovation. Plywood-covered windows, construction equipment sat silent in corners. Selena stumbled out, spun in a circle. Where was she? Lincoln Park? River North? Everything looked wrong in the darkness. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She yanked it out with shaking hands. Text from Dominic. Stay where you are. Help is coming. She typed back frantically. Marcus is hurt. They're killing him. We have to... The phone was ripped from her hands. Selena spun around and found herself staring at a man in a black tactical vest, silenced pistol pointed at her chest. He smiled, the kind of smile that promised nothing but pain. Hello, Miss Moretti, he said in accented English. Russian, maybe? Eastern European? People have been looking for you for a very long time. 2 more men emerged from shadows, surrounding her, professional, calm. This was just another job to them. Another target acquired. The first man stepped closer. You're going to come with us now, quietly, or we start with your cousin Ava. Would you like to watch her die first? Selena's legs went liquid. She stumbled back against the wall. Good, the man said. Very. The world exploded. Not metaphorically, literally. The building's front entrance blew inward in a shower of glass and twisted metal. Through the smoke and debris, a figure moved forward, tall, dark suit, somehow still perfect, face carved from stone and fury. Dominic Vale had arrived, and he hadn't come alone. The gunfire started before the smoke cleared. Dominic's men moved like shadows with teeth. 6 of them, maybe 7. Selena couldn't count through the chaos. They wore no uniforms, carried no badges, just tactical gear and weapons that spoke a language older than law. The Russians, because that's what they had to be based on the accents she'd caught, returned fire immediately. Muzzle flashes lit the gutted building like lightning strikes. Selena hit the floor, covered her head, tasted concrete dust in her own terror. Someone grabbed her arm. She screamed and lashed out, nails finding flesh. It's me! Dominic's voice cut through the noise. We're leaving. Now! He hauled her upright with one hand while firing with the other. Controlled bursts, professional, like he'd done this 1,000 times before, which, Selena realized with creeping horror, he probably had. They ran toward the blown-out entrance. Around them, men died. A Russian went down clutching his throat. One of Dominic's men collapsed backward, red blooming across his chest. The distinction between good guys and bad guys dissolved into pure survival. Run or die, those were the only choices left. The night air hit Selena's face like a slap. Dominic shoved her toward a black SUV idling at the curb, rear door already open. She dove inside. He followed, slamming the door as bullets spiderwebbed the bulletproof glass. Drive, Dominic said. The SUV launched forward. No sirens followed. No police response. Whatever had just happened in that building would be cleaned up and forgotten before sunrise. Just another Chicago night, where money bought silence and bodies disappeared into Lake Michigan wrapped in chains. Selena pressed her back against leather seats and tried to remember how to breathe. Her hands shook so badly she had to clench them into fists. When she spoke, Her voice came out raw. Marcus? Dead. Dominic didn't look at her. He was reloading his weapon with mechanical precision. Took 3 rounds to the chest before they finished him. He saved my life. That was his job. The casual brutality of it hit Selena like a physical blow. His job? He was a person. He was a soldier. Dominic finally met her eyes. No apology in his expression, no grief, just cold assessment. He knew the risks. So did I when I sent him to get you. Selena wanted to scream, to hit him, to demand answers that made sense in a world that had stopped making sense the moment he'd walked into Constellation. But her body had other priorities, shaking, teeth chattering, adrenaline crash, hitting like a freight train. Where are we going? She managed. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. Dominic slid his weapon into a shoulder holster under his jacket. When his hands came away, they were steady. Not a tremor. Like he hadn't just killed people. Like this was Tuesday. Who else knows about your grandmother's family? Selena's mind spun. What? Who else knows? He enunciated each word like she was stupid. Your cousin Ava? Friends? Coworkers? Nobody. My grandmother never talked about it. You're sure? Yes, Selena stopped. Thought back through years of half conversations and deflected questions. She had a box under her bed. After she died, I went through it. Just old photographs mostly. Some letters in Italian I couldn't fully read. Dominic's expression sharpened. You still have them? In my apartment. Not anymore, you don't. He pulled out his phone, typed something one-handed. I had a team sweep your place an hour ago. Everything's in transit. The violation of that should have made her angry. Instead, Selena just felt numb. You broke into my home. I saved your life. He pocketed the phone. Twice now. You're welcome. I didn't ask for you. No, you didn't. Your grandfather did. 23 years ago, before you were born. He asked me to watch over his family if anything happened to him. Dominic's jaw tightened. He knew the risks. Knew that leaving the life didn't mean the life would leave him. So he made arrangements. Selena stared at him. You're saying my grandfather was... Matteo Moretti ran the most sophisticated smuggling operation in the Mediterranean before he got out. Weapons, art, antiquities, anything that could be moved for a price. He built an empire. Then he walked away from it, came to America, and tried to bury the past under legitimate businesses. Dominic's voice carried no judgment, just facts. But the past doesn't stay buried, not when there's money involved, not when there are people who remember what the Moretti name used to mean. The SUV turned onto Lakeshore Drive. Through the tinted windows, Chicago spread out like a circuit board. Lights and shadows, wealth and poverty pressed together until the seams showed. So these people tonight, Selena said slowly, they want you. Dominic leaned back against the seat. For the first time, she noticed the blood on his collar. Not his, someone else's. Your grandfather liquidated most of his assets before he died, but there are accounts, holdings, business relationships that can't be transferred without family consent. You're the last blood relative, which means you're the key. To what? Approximately $4 billion, give or take. The number didn't land right. Too big, too absurd. Selena laughed, a broken sound that hurt her throat. That's insane. That's reality. Dominic watched her with the same clinical interest he might give a stock portfolio. And until we figure out who's behind tonight's attack, you're coming home with me. I have a home. Not anymore. Your apartment's compromised. So is your cousin's dorm. Anywhere you've spent significant time in the last 6 months is a liability now. Selena's hands twisted in her lap. Ava. You said they threatened Ava. They did. She's being moved to a secure location as we speak. She'll be safe. You can't just... I already did. Dominic's tone allowed no argument. You want her alive? This is how that happens. You want to go back to serving overpriced pasta to hedge fund managers? That life ended tonight. The only question now is whether you survive long enough to understand what comes next. The SUV pulled off Lakeshore onto a side street that probably had a name but felt nameless. The kind of urban canyon where buildings blocked out stars, and money insulated residents from reality. They descended into an underground garage, multiple checkpoints, armed guards who nodded at Dominic without asking questions. The elevator that took them up was all glass and chrome. Selena caught her reflection, pale, mascara smeared, still wearing her server's uniform under the jacket someone had thrown over her shoulders. She looked like a ghost. Felt like one too. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse. Selena stepped into the space that could have been featured in architecture magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, furniture that cost more than her education, art on the walls that might have been real or might have been perfect forgeries. She couldn't tell and suspected it didn't matter to people who lived here. "Top floor," Dominic said, shrugging off his jacket, blood-spattered shirt underneath. He unbuttoned his cuffs like he was preparing for bed, not coming back from a firefight. 48th. Security on every access point. You're safe here. Safe? Selena repeated the word like it was foreign. Your driver's dead. We just got shot at by Russian gangsters, and you're telling me I'm safe? Safer than anywhere else in Chicago. He walked toward what looked like a bar. Actual bar. Brass fixtures and crystal decanters arranged like soldiers. Poured 2 fingers of something amber into a heavy glass. Drank it in one swallow. Then poured another and held it out to her. Selena didn't move. I don't drink. You do tonight. I don't eat. Selena. He said her name like a warning. Take the glass. Drink it. Then we'll talk. But if you want to have this conversation sober, you're going to spend the next hour crying on my floor. Your choice. She hated him in that moment. Hated his certainty, his control, his absolute refusal to acknowledge that her entire world had just detonated. But her hands were still shaking, and her breath kept catching, and the image of Marcus bleeding in that garage wouldn't leave her head. She took the glass. Drank. Whiskey burned down her throat. Expensive, smooth, the kind of alcohol that didn't apologize for what it did to you. Good, Dominic said. Sit down before you fall down. Selena sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than her car. The penthouse felt too big, too empty, like a museum exhibit of how rich people lived when they stopped being human. Dominic remained standing. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms marked with old scars, the kind you got from knives and broken bottles, not gym equipment. Your cousin Ava is at a secured facility in Oak Park. She's with 2 of my best people. She thinks it's protective custody related to a threat at the hospital where she volunteers. She doesn't know about you, about tonight, about any of this. You lied to her. I protected her. There's a difference. He set his glass down with a heavy click. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call her. Tell her you're visiting a friend out of state for a few days. Keep it casual. She can't know where you really are. And where am I really? Under my protection until we identify who's coming after you and why. Could be the Russians, could be the Sicilians, could be someone we haven't even considered yet. Dominic began to pace, slow, controlled, like a predator marking territory. Your grandfather made enemies, lots of them. Most died or retired, but some are still out there, and they all remember what the Moretti family used to control. Selena's head throbbed. The whiskey wasn't helping. What did we control? Everything that mattered in the Mediterranean, shipping routes, port access, connections to governments, businesses, organizations that don't exist on paper. He stopped at the window. Chicago glittered below like scattered diamonds. Your grandfather was brilliant. He saw globalization coming decades before anyone else. Positioned the family to move legitimate cargo instead of contraband. By the time he died, Moretti Holdings owned logistics companies on 4 continents. Holdings? Selena's voice sounded hollow. I've never heard of Moretti Holdings. Because it's buried under 17 shell corporations and 6 different countries' worth of paperwork. Your grandfather was paranoid, smart. He made sure the family name disappeared from public records. Dominic turned to face her. But the people who mattered, they remembered. And when he died 2 years ago, they started circling. 2 years ago, Selena's pulse hammered. That's when my grandmother died. Same week, heart attack in her sleep. Dominic's expression flickered. Something almost like sympathy before the mask slammed back. I had it investigated, natural causes. But I've always wondered if the timing was coincidence or if someone decided to tie up loose ends. The room spun. Selena gripped the couch cushions. You think someone killed my grandmother? I think your grandmother was the only thing standing between you and a lot of very dangerous people who want access to your family's empire. With her gone, you became visible, vulnerable. He moved closer, not threatening, just present, filling space with authority that felt genetic. Your grandfather knew this could happen. That's why he made me promise to protect his bloodline, whatever it cost. Why you? The question burst out before Selena could stop it. You're not family. Why would he trust you? Dominic's jaw tightened. Because I owed him a debt I could never repay. And because 23 years ago, Matteo Moretti saved my life when he had every reason to let me die. Silence filled the penthouse. Outside, a helicopter passed, red lights blinking against black sky. Selena wanted to ask what debt, what life-saving moment bound a billionaire to a dead man's promise, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Her bones ached. Her mind couldn't process another revelation, another secret, another layer of lies buried under lies. I want to see Ava, she said quietly. Tomorrow, after you've rested. I want to see her now. And I want you alive long enough to have that reunion. Dominic's voice hardened. You don't give orders here, Selena. Not yet. Not until you understand what you've inherited and what it means. Anger flared through her exhaustion. I didn't inherit anything. I'm a server with student debt and a dead-end life. Whatever my grandfather built, it has nothing to do with me. Wrong. Dominic closed the distance between them, stood close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. It has everything to do with you. Your DNA, your name, the blood in your veins. People died tonight trying to get to you. Marcus died. And more will die before this is over. You can pretend you're nobody. You can wish yourself back to that restaurant, that apartment, that safe little existence. But it's gone, burned, dead. The only choice you have now is whether you survive what comes next. Selena stood on shaking legs. You don't own me. No, I'm keeping you alive. There's a difference. Is there? She laughed bitterly. Because right now it feels like I've been kidnapped by someone just as dangerous as the people trying to kill me. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Not anger. Something colder. If I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be hurt. If I wanted to use you, I'd have thrown you to the Russians and made a deal. But I'm standing here, having this conversation, because I made a promise to a man I respected, and I keep my promises. Even when they don't want to be kept? Especially then. They stared at each other across 3 feet of expensive carpet. The city breathed beyond the windows. Millions of people sleeping, working, living, dying, all of them oblivious to the war being waged in penthouses and parking garages. Finally, Selena stepped back. Where do I sleep? Guest room, down the hall, second door. Dominic turned away, dismissing her. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. But understand something. There's nowhere you can run that I won't find you. Nowhere you can hide that my people won't track. You're mine now, under my protection, and that's not negotiable. Selena wanted to argue, to scream, to tell him exactly where he could shove his protection and his dead man's promises. But Marcus's blood was still wet on her shoes. And somewhere in Chicago, men with guns were still hunting her. So she walked down the hall, found the guest room. Bigger than her entire apartment, bed like a cloud, bathroom with marble and gold fixtures. Locked the door, then slid down the wall and finally let herself cry. She woke to sunlight knifing through unfamiliar curtains. For one beautiful, delirious moment, Selena thought it had been a nightmare. Marcus. The gunfight. Dominic Vale's dark eyes promising protection that felt like prison. Then she saw her clothes from last night, blood-stained, torn, piled on the floor like evidence. Reality settled back into her bones. Her phone sat on the nightstand. 7 missed calls, 12 texts, all from Ava. Where are you, Selena? Answer your phone. Some guys showed up at my dorm last night saying you sent them? WTF is going on? Call me. Selena's fingers hovered over the screen. What could she say? Hey, cousin, Turns out our dead grandfather was a crime lord, and now I'm hiding in a billionaire's penthouse because Russian gangsters want to murder me for inheritance money I didn't know existed? A knock on the door made her jump. You're awake. Dominic's voice carried through the wood. Not a question. There's breakfast in the kitchen. We need to talk. Selena found clothes laid out on a chair, jeans, sweater, all her size. She tried not to think about how he knew her measurements, got dressed, avoided looking at the mirror because she already knew what she'd see there. Someone broken trying to pretend they weren't. The kitchen was all steel and stone, professional grade, the kind of space where private chefs cooked meals for people who didn't know how to boil water. Dominic stood at the counter in fresh clothes, black shirt, dark slacks, looking like he'd slept 10 hours instead of maybe 3. Coffee steamed in his hand. Eat, he said, gesturing to a plate of eggs and toast. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You'll need your strength. Selena sat at the counter, picked at the eggs without tasting them. Ava's been texting. I know. One of my people is monitoring her phone. That's illegal? So is kidnapping, murder, weapons trafficking. Want to keep listing crimes, or do you want to stay alive? He set his coffee down. Call her. Keep it short. Stick to the script I gave you last night. You didn't give me a script. Then I'm giving you one now. Dominic leaned against the counter. Tell her you're visiting a friend in Madison for a few days. Job opportunity. You'll be back soon. Don't mention me. Don't mention last night. If she presses, tell her you'll explain later. She'll know I'm lying. Probably, but she'll be alive to figure it out. His tone allowed no argument. Make the call. Selena pulled out her phone. Ava answered on the first ring. Jesus Christ, Selena, where the hell are you? I'm fine, I'm sorry. I should have texted. 2 guys showed up at my dorm last night saying you sent them. Big guys, professional. They told me I needed to come with them for my own safety. Ava's voice pitched higher. What the actual fuck is happening? It's complicated. Try me. Selena glanced at Dominic. He watched her with the intensity of a hawk studying prey. No sympathy, just cold assessment of whether she could pull this off. There was an incident at work, Selena said carefully. A customer made some threats. The restaurant's security team thought it would be safer if you stayed somewhere protected for a few days. An incident. Ava didn't sound convinced. What kind of incident? The kind I don't want to talk about over the phone. Silence stretched. Then, are you in trouble? No. Maybe. I don't know yet. Selena's voice cracked despite her best efforts. I just need you to trust me. Stay where those men took you. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone you don't recognize. I'll explain everything soon. I promise. Selena, I have to go. I love you. Stay safe. She ended the call before Ava could protest. Set the phone down with shaking hands. Good, Dominic said. Convincing enough. She knows I'm lying. She'll get over it when she's not dead. He picked up a tablet from the counter, tapped the screen a few times. We need to discuss what happens next. I want to see her. Noted. Denied. Moving on. He turned the tablet toward her. These are the main players who might be behind last night's attack. The screen showed photographs. Men in expensive suits. Men in military uniforms. Men who looked like they'd killed people and slept fine afterward. Viktor Kozlov. Dominic tapped the first photo. Russian oligarch. Controls shipping in the Black Sea. Your grandfather undercut him on 3 major contracts before retiring. Kozlov has a long memory and a longer grudge. He swiped to the next image. Antonio Castellano. Sicilian. Old blood. He's been trying to consolidate Mediterranean smuggling operations for a decade. With your grandfather gone, he sees an opportunity. Another swipe. This photo showed a woman, 50s, elegant diamond earrings that could fund a small country. Elena Russo, widow of one of your grandfather's former partners. She blames Matteo for her husband's death, has the money and connections to hire professional killers. Selena stared at the faces. How am I supposed to know which one wants me dead? You're not. That's my job. Dominic set the tablet aside. Your job is to stay alive long enough for me to eliminate the threats. Eliminate. The word tasted like copper. You mean kill. I mean remove from the equation. How that happens depends on the threat. His expression revealed nothing. Some people can be bought. Some can be intimidated. Some need to disappear. I don't care which category they fall into as long as you're safe. Selena pushed the plate away. The eggs congealed into something gray and lifeless. What if I don't want this? Any of this? What if I just give up whatever inheritance or access or whatever these people want? Then you die anyway. Dominic's voice stayed calm, patient, like explaining basic math to a child. Because the moment you sign over your rights, you become a liability, a loose end. And people like Kozlov don't leave loose ends. They tie them up with bullets and dump them in rivers. So I'm trapped. You're protected. There's a difference. Stop saying that, Selena snapped. Stop acting like you're doing me a favor. You want something from me. I'm not stupid enough to think this is charity. For the first time, Dominic smiled. Not warmth, just acknowledgement that she'd finally said something interesting. You're right. I do want something. He moved around the counter, closer. Your grandfather's network, his connections, the infrastructure he built. It's worth billions. But more than that, it's elegant, perfect. A system that could move anything, anywhere, completely legal. I've spent 10 years maintaining it after he died, keeping the pieces together, waiting. For what? For you. His eyes locked onto hers. I can run the business. I have been. But I can't control the old families. The traditionalists who remember when Moretti meant something beyond profit margins. They need blood, lineage, a name that carries weight in rooms where my name gets me killed. Understanding crashed over Selena like ice water. You want to use me as a puppet. I want to partner with you. Dominic's tone never changed. I provide protection, resources, expertise. You provide legitimacy. Together, we control an empire worth more than most countries' GDP. And if I refuse, then I keep you alive until you change your mind. No hesitation, no doubt. Because that promise I made to your grandfather, it didn't come with an expiration date. You're mine to protect whether you cooperate or not. Selena stood, needed distance from him, from this conversation, from the casual way he talked about controlling her life like it was a business transaction. I need air. Balconies through those doors. Don't go near the edge. She walked outside before he could say more. The balcony overlooked Lake Michigan, water stretching to the horizon like hammered steel. Wind cut through her borrowed sweater. Chicago spread below, indifferent and enormous. Behind her, she heard Dominic's phone ring. His voice dropped to business-like tones she couldn't quite hear. Selena gripped the railing, tried to think, tried to find some option that didn't end with her either dead or trapped in a world she'd never wanted. The balcony door opened. Dominic stepped out, phone still pressed to his ear. His expression had changed, sharper, colder, dangerous in a way that made her step back automatically. He ended the call. We have a problem. Another one? Vittorio Serrano just landed at O'Hare. He's coming to Chicago, and he's bringing an army. Selena's throat tightened. Who's Vittorio Serrano? The most dangerous man you've never heard of. Dominic moved to the railing, stared at the city like it was a battlefield he was already planning to defend. He's the kingmaker, the power behind half the organized crime in Southern Europe. He doesn't get his hands dirty. Doesn't need to. He has money, connections, and more soldiers than some countries. What does he want with me? Dominic turned. The look in his eyes made Selena's blood run cold. He wants to marry you to his nephew, consolidate the Moretti Empire with his own, create a dynasty that would control everything from Palermo to Prague. His jaw clenched. And Vittorio Serrano doesn't take no for an answer, ever, from anyone. The wind picked up. Below, traffic moved like blood cells through arteries. Normal people living normal lives. Selena wasn't one of them anymore. How long do we have? She asked quietly. His flight landed 20 minutes ago. He'll make contact by tonight. Dominic's hand moved to his phone. Already texting, already moving pieces on a board she couldn't see. We need to move you. This location's compromised if he has the resources I think he does. Move me where? Somewhere even I don't control. Neutral ground. A place where old rules still apply and even Serrano has to follow protocol. He looked at her. Can you handle meeting the people your grandfather left behind? The ones who remember what the Moretti name used to mean? Selena's hands shook. She clenched them into fists. Do I have a choice? No. Dominic walked past her toward the penthouse. Get dressed. Something formal. We leave in an hour. And Selina? He paused at the door. Whatever happens tonight, do not show fear. These people are sharks. They smell weakness, and they attack. Your grandfather ruled them through strength. If you want to survive, you need to be him, even if it terrifies you. He disappeared inside. Selina stood on the balcony, wind tearing at her hair, and wondered if there was a version of this story where she didn't lose herself completely. She couldn't find one. The car came at dusk, not the SUV from last night. This was different. A vintage Rolls-Royce, black as sin, chrome gleaming like a threat. 2 cars followed, escort vehicles. Men with guns riding inside, watching streets like they expected war. Selina wore a dress she'd found in the guest room closet. Black. Simple. Expensive in the way that didn't scream but whispered. Dominic had looked at her once and nodded approval without speaking. Now they sat in the back of the Rolls, leather seats and old wood grain, driving through neighborhoods that got progressively darker and emptier. Where are we going? Selina asked. The Monarch Club. Dominic straightened his cufflinks. Custom. Probably cost more than she'd made in a year. Private establishment, members only. The kind of place where old families meet to discuss business the rest of the world doesn't know exists. Sounds illegal. It's Chicago. Everything's illegal if you look close enough. He glanced at her. You remember what I told you? Don't show fear. Don't look weak. Pretend I know what I'm doing. Close. Don't pretend. Believe it. You're Matteo Moretti's granddaughter. These people knew him, feared him. Some loved him. Some hated him. But all of them respected him. You walk in there carrying that name like armor. Understand? Selina nodded, not trusting her voice. The Monarch Club sat in an industrial district where warehouses crouched like sleeping beasts. Nothing about it looked special, just another brick building with no sign, no lights, no indication anyone lived or worked there. But when the Rolls pulled up to a steel door, it opened immediately. Men in suits stepped aside, not bowing, just acknowledging, like royalty had arrived. Dominic exited first, held out his hand for Selina. She took it, stepped onto pavement that smelled like rain and old oil. The door led to an elevator. They descended, down, into the earth where Chicago's real business happened. The elevator opened onto a room that shouldn't exist. Cathedral ceilings, marble floors, chandeliers dripping crystal light. Men in tuxedos and women in gowns circulated with champagne glasses, conversing in low tones that suggested secrets worth killing for. Every head turned when Selina entered. The room fell silent. She felt their eyes like physical weight, assessing, calculating, recognizing something in her face, her bones, the way she held herself despite the terror singing through her veins. An old man approached. 70s, maybe 80s. White hair perfect, suit probably older than Selina. He moved with the careful grace of someone who'd survived long enough to know exactly how dangerous the world was. He stopped 3 feet away, stared at Selina like she was a ghost. Then he spoke in Italian. Madonna Santa, sei identica tua nonna. Holy Mother, you're identical to your grandmother. Selina's breath caught. You knew her? La conoscevo? Did I know her? The old man laughed, rough, broken. Ragazza, ero innamorato di lei prima che sposasse tuo nonno. Girl, I was in love with her before she married your grandfather. He reached out slowly, touched Selina's face with fingers that trembled. His eyes shone wet. Matteo aveva ragione, he whispered. Il sangue è sempre vero. Matteo was right. Blood always runs true. Behind him, the room erupted into motion. People surged forward, all speaking Italian, Spanish, languages Selina only half understood, asking questions, demanding introductions, treating her like she mattered in ways she'd never mattered before. Dominic's hand found the small of her back, steadying her, anchoring her to reality. Gentlemen, he said in English, his voice cut through the noise. Ladies, I know you're eager to meet Matteo's granddaughter, but we're here on business, and there's someone she needs to see first. The crowd parted. At the far end of the room, a private booth sat elevated above the main floor. Inside, a man waited, Old, gray suit, face carved from Sicilian stone, eyes that had watched empires rise and fall. Vittorio Serrano. He stood as they approached, smiled, warm, paternal, completely terrifying in its false kindness. Miss Moretti. His English carried just a trace of accent. At last! I've waited so long to meet you. Your grandfather and I, we had business once. Unfinished business. He gestured to the seat across from him. Please, sit. Let's discuss your future. Selina felt Dominic's hand press against her back. Gentle, insistent. She walked forward on legs that felt like water, sat across from the man who wanted to control her life. And Vittorio Serrano leaned forward with that terrible smile and said, Now then, let's talk about your wedding. Selina's throat closed around words that wouldn't come. Wedding. The syllables hung in the air between them like a noose, waiting to drop. Vittorio Serrano watched her with eyes that had seen decades of people break under pressure, watched and cataloged every micro-expression, every tell, every weakness he could exploit later. I don't understand, Selina managed. Her voice sounded thin even to her own ears. Don't you? Vittorio leaned back against leather upholstery worn smooth by generations of criminals. Your grandfather and I had an arrangement before he died, before he... The old man's face tightened almost imperceptibly, before he chose to forget his obligations. Dominic's hand remained on Selina's shoulder, pressure, warning. She couldn't tell if he was holding her down or holding her together. My grandfather never mentioned you, she said. Of course he didn't. Matteo was always sentimental about family, thought he could protect you by keeping you ignorant. Vittorio gestured to someone outside the booth. A younger man appeared, 30s, handsome in the way of men who'd never been told no, wearing a suit that cost more than most cars. This is my nephew, Luca Serrano, Yale-educated, fluent in 6 languages, runs our European logistics operations. Luca smiled, perfect teeth, dead eyes. Miss Moretti, he said smoothly. It's a pleasure. Selina looked at Dominic. His expression had gone to stone. No help there, no rescue. She was on her own in this booth with men discussing her future like she was a merger acquisition. I'm not marrying anyone, she said. Tried to make it sound firm. Came out shaky instead. Vittorio's smile never wavered. Your grandfather owned 47% of Mediterranean shipping routes before he retired. Those routes are now controlled by holding companies registered in your name, whether you knew it or not. He pulled a leather folder from beside him, opened it to reveal documents, dense legal text, signatures, corporate structures that looked like spider webs. With your marriage to Luca, those holdings would merge with Serrano operations, creating the largest private logistics network in Europe. I don't own anything. You own everything. Vittorio's voice hardened. $4 billion in liquid assets, $3 billion in real estate, infrastructure worth another $6 billion, all of it locked behind blood verification and family consent, all of it yours. The numbers still didn't land right. Too abstract, too enormous. Selina's life measured in student loan debt and weekly paychecks. Not billions, not empires. And if I refuse? She asked. Luca answered before his uncle could. Then we'd be very disappointed. He said it lightly, casually, like discussing weather. And when we're disappointed, unfortunate accidents tend to happen. Gas leaks, car crashes, random violence in bad neighborhoods. His eyes found hers. Your cousin Ava lives in a dorm with minimal security, 10th floor. Fire escapes on every side. Would be tragic if... Dominic moved so fast Selina barely saw it. One moment he was standing behind her chair. The next his hand was around Luca's throat, slamming the younger man back against the booth wall. The entire club went silent. Men in suits reached for weapons they weren't supposed to have. Finish that sentence, Dominic said quietly. Please. Luca's face reddened, hands scrabbling at Dominic's wrist. Vittorio raised one hand, just slightly, and the tension in the room ratcheted up another notch. Dominic. The old man's voice carried no heat, just certainty. You're making a scene. Your nephew just threatened to murder an innocent college student. Dominic's grip didn't loosen. I'd say that warrants a scene. He was illustrating consequences, not making threats. Vittorio's eyes glittered. Release him, now, before this becomes something neither of us can walk away from. For 3 seconds, that felt like hours. Nothing happened. Selena watched Dominic's knuckles go white, watched Luca's eyes start to roll back, watched the entire room hold its collective breath, waiting to see if the truce that kept Chicago from descending into open warfare would shatter right here. Then Dominic let go. Luca collapsed forward, gasping. Someone handed him a napkin. He wiped his mouth with shaking hands while murder burned in his eyes. "This meeting is over," Dominic said. He pulled Selena to her feet. "The meeting is over when I say it's over." Vittorio stood slowly. Age made him careful but no less dangerous. "You forget yourself, Dominic. This club operates under old rules, rules that respect lineage and blood over money." He looked at Selena. "Your grandfather understood this. He knew that walking away didn't erase debts, didn't cancel obligations." "What obligation?" Selena found her voice somewhere under the fear. "What did my grandfather promise you?" "Alliance. Partnership. The understanding that Moretti and Serrano would move forward together instead of tearing each other apart over territory." Vittorio's hand swept toward the documents. "He died before finalizing the arrangement, but the principle stands. You marry Luca. Our families unite. Everyone prospers. Or," he let the word hang, "or you kill me anyway and take what you want." "No." Vittorio actually looked offended. "I'm not a barbarian, Miss Moretti. I don't murder women for inheritance, but I also don't allow disrespect. You have 1 week to consider my proposal. After that," he glanced at Luca, still rubbing his throat. "After that, negotiations become significantly less pleasant." Dominic's hand closed around Selena's elbow. "We're leaving." "Of course you are." Vittorio sat back down, poured himself wine from a crystal decanter. "But understand something before you go. Every person in this room remembers your grandfather. Half of them loved him, half hated him, but all of them feared him, because Matteo Moretti kept his word, always, without exception." He sipped the wine. "You want to inherit his empire, then inherit his honor. Marriage to Luca isn't a cage, it's a crown. Walk away now, and you'll spend the rest of your very short life running from people who know you're weak." The words hit like physical blows. Selena felt every eye in the club boring into her back as Dominic guided her toward the elevator. The old man who'd known her grandmother watched with tears still wet on his cheeks. Others whispered behind hands, judging, measuring, finding her wanting. The elevator doors closed, and Selena finally let herself breathe. "That went well," Dominic said flatly. "He's going to kill Ava." Selena's hand shook so badly she had to grip the elevator rail. He's going to try. Won't succeed. I have 12 people watching your cousin right now. Veterans. Trained. They won't let anyone within 50 feet of her." The elevator rose back toward ground level. "But he made his position clear, and now we know what we're dealing with. A psychopath who wants to marry me off like medieval property? A businessman who sees value in strategic alliance and isn't above using violence to enforce compliance. Same as everyone else in that room." Dominic checked his phone, frowned. "We need to move you again. Serrano will have people following us the moment we leave." The elevator opened onto the warehouse floor. Cold air, metal smell. Their escorts waiting by the rolls, engines running, ready to disappear into Chicago's night. They were halfway to the car when Selena's phone rang. Unknown number. Again. Her stomach dropped. "Don't answer it," Dominic said. She answered anyway. Couldn't say why. Just knew somehow that this call mattered. "Selena?" A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Accented. Italian, but different from the Sicilian she'd heard all night. Northern Italian. Cultured. "You don't know me, but I knew your grandfather. And I need to tell you something before Dominic Vale gets you killed." Selena stopped walking. "Who is this?" Dominic grabbed for the phone. She twisted away. "My name is Sofia Moretti." The woman's voice carried urgency underneath forced calm. "I'm your grandfather's sister, your great-aunt, and everything Dominic has told you is a lie." The world tilted. "That's impossible. My grandmother never mentioned—" "Your grandmother didn't know I existed. Matteo erased me from family history 30 years ago when I testified against him to federal prosecutors." Sophia spoke faster now, like time was running out. "I'm in Chicago. I can prove everything, but you need to come alone. Without Dominic. Because he's not protecting you, Selena. He's using you to access assets that don't belong to him. Dominic ripped the phone from her hand. Sophia, so that's your play. He ended the call, crushed the phone under his heel, ground it into concrete until components scattered. What the hell? Selena started. Get in the car. Now. Who is she? What did she mean? She's a ghost who should have stayed dead. Dominic shoved Selena toward the rolls. Not gentle, actually rough. The mask cracking for the first time since she'd met him. And if you contact her, you'll be dead too. Understand? Selena pulled away from his grip. You're hurting me. He blinked, looked at his hand like it belonged to someone else, released her. But the damage was done. She'd seen something in his eyes, desperation maybe, or fear. Emotions he'd kept locked down until this moment. Who is Sophia Moretti? Selena demanded. A traitor, a liar, someone who betrayed your grandfather when he needed her most. Dominic ran a hand through his hair, composure returning but not quite fitting right. She turned informant 30 years ago, got immunity in exchange for testimony that nearly destroyed the family. Mateo exiled her, erased her name. If she's back now, it means she has something to say that you don't want me hearing. Their eyes locked. Chicago breathed around them. Distant sirens, the L train rattling past on elevated tracks, millions of people living lives that didn't involve armed escorts and family conspiracies. Get in the car, Dominic said quietly. Please. The please sounded wrong in his mouth, like a word in a foreign language he'd learned phonetically but didn't understand. Selena got in the car, but she didn't stop thinking about that phone call, about Sophia's voice, about the desperate edge to it that sounded less like manipulation and more like warning. But the safe house was different from the penthouse. No views, no luxury, just a converted loft in an industrial zone where businesses died and nobody asked questions. Concrete floors, steel beams, windows painted black, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. Dominic's people swept the space while Selena stood in the center and tried not to think about how this felt less like protection and more like captivity. Clear, one of the security team reported. Big guy. Slavic accent, scar bisecting his left eyebrow. Perimeters secure, no eyes on approach. Good, Dominic dismissed them with a gesture. They filed out, leaving him and Selena alone in the empty space. She turned on him immediately. I want answers, real ones. Who is Sophia Moretti and what don't you want me to know? She's poison. Dominic shrugged off his jacket. Underneath, shoulder holster and gun. Always armed. Always ready. Your grandfather spent years building something legitimate from a criminal empire. Sophia thought he was going soft, betraying tradition, so she fed information to the FBI. Nearly got him killed. But he survived. Barely. 3 of his people didn't. They died in raids because Sophia gave up safe houses and meeting locations. Dominic poured himself water from a bottle, drank it like whiskey. When the dust settled, Mateo gave her 2 choices: disappear forever or face traditional punishment for betrayal. What's traditional punishment? You really want to know? Selena's stomach turned. She said you're lying to me, using me. Of course she did. That's her play. Dominic set the bottle down too hard. Glass and concrete. Harsh crack. She wants back into the family, wants access to assets that Mateo specifically excluded her from when he structured his estate. So she shows up now, feeds you doubt, hopes you'll turn against me and make her your advisor instead. It made sense, logical, but something about the way he said it, too rehearsed, too smooth, made Selena's instincts scream. Show me proof, she said. What? If Sophia betrayed my grandfather, there must be records, court documents, FBI files. Show me. Dominic stared at her. You don't believe me. I don't know what to believe anymore. 24 hours ago, I was serving pasta. Now I'm hiding in a warehouse because multiple people want me either married or dead. So yes, I want proof before I decide who's telling the truth. The proof is that you're still alive. His voice went cold, sharp. I've had a dozen chances to hurt you, use you, sell you to the highest bidder. Instead, I've protected you, gotten men killed protecting you. And you're questioning my motives because some woman you've never met makes one phone call? She knew things about my grandfather, about nothing. Dominic moved closer, towering, using height as intimidation. She knew what anyone with internet access and time could learn. Your grandfather's name is on public records, so is yours. It's not magic, it's research. Selena stood her ground. Then you won't mind if I talk to her? I mind very much, because the moment you walk into whatever trap she's set, you're dead. And the promise I made to your grandfather dies with you. He turned away, paced like a caged animal. Sophia Moretti is a ghost who should stay buried. If you dig her up, you'll regret it. Is that a threat? It's a prediction. Silence filled the loft. Outside, a train passed, metal shrieking against metal. Selena watched Dominic pace, watched the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand kept drifting toward his weapon, not consciously, just reflex, like violence was his default response to problems he couldn't control. I'm going to sleep, she said finally. Tomorrow, I want to see Ava, in person, not negotiable. Fine, I'll arrange it. And I want access to my grandfather's personal effects, letters, diaries, whatever he left behind. If I'm supposed to inherit his empire, I need to understand who he was. Dominic stopped pacing. Some things are better left unknown. I'll decide that. They stared at each other across concrete and mistrust. Then Dominic nodded once, sharp, like agreeing to terms of surrender. Get some sleep, he said. Big day tomorrow. He walked to the far end of the loft, settled into a chair facing the door, gun on his lap, eyes on the entrance. The eternal watchman keeping guard over a prisoner who didn't want to be saved. Selena found a cot in what passed for a bedroom. Concrete walls. Single window painted black. She lay down fully clothed and stared at shadows. Sophia's voice echoed in her memory. Everything Dominic has told you is a lie. But Dominic had saved her life. Multiple times. Gotten his own people killed protecting her. Unless that was the play. Get her to trust him. Isolate her from anyone who might tell different stories. Control the narrative until she signed whatever documents he needed to access her grandfather's billions. Or maybe Sophia was the manipulator, the betrayer returning to finish what she'd started 30 years ago. Selena's head throbbed. She closed her eyes, tried to sleep, failed. Sometime after midnight, she heard voices from the main room. Low, urgent. Dominic on the phone with someone. The words were muffled, but the tone was clear. Argument. Disagreement. Something going wrong. She crept to the door, cracked it open. Don't care what Vittorio wants, Dominic was saying. She's not meeting with Sophia. It's too dangerous. Because Sophia knows things that change the equation. No, I can handle it. I just need more time. Pause. Listening. The documents are ready. I'll have her sign them by end of week. Once that's done, we move the assets through the shell core like we planned. Yes, I know what's at stake. I've spent 10 years setting this up. I'm not throwing it away now because some ghost crawled out of the past. Selena's blood went cold. Another pause, then, Ava's insurance. If Selena won't cooperate, her cousin's leverage. We don't hurt her. Just make it clear what happens if she refuses to sign. The phone call ended. Dominic sat in silence. Then, so quietly, Selena almost missed it. I'm sorry, Matteo, but business is business. She closed the door, backed away on legs that didn't feel attached to her body. Everything Dominic has told you is a lie. Sophia had been right. Dominic wasn't protecting her. He was controlling her, using Ava as hostage, planning to force Selena's signature on documents that would transfer her grandfather's empire into his hands. 10 years. He'd said 10 years setting this up, which meant Matteo Moretti's death 2 years ago wasn't natural causes like Dominic claimed. The room spun. Selena grabbed the wall, forced herself to breathe. She was trapped in a safe house controlled by the man who wanted to steal everything. Ava was in danger. Sophia might be her only ally, but contacting her meant getting past Dominic's security. Her phone was destroyed. No way to call for help. Unless, Selena remembered the old laptop she'd seen in the corner. Ancient ThinkPad probably used for surveillance footage. She crept to it, powered it on, prayed it wasn't password protected. It wasn't. She opened a browser, searched for Sophia Moretti. Nothing recent, just old news articles from 30 years ago. Testimony against organized crime figures, witness protection, then silence. But buried in the search results, a Reddit post from 3 months ago. Username Sophia M1954. The message simple. If Mateo's granddaughter is reading this, I'm at the Palmer House, room 412. Your grandfather was murdered. Dominic Vale killed him. I can prove it, but you need to come alone. Trust no one from his organization. They're all complicit, posted 3 months ago, before Dominic had ever contacted Selena, before any of this started. Sophia had known, had been waiting. Selena screenshotted the post, emailed it to herself from a burner account, cleared the browser history, shut down the laptop. Then she lay on the cot and planned her escape. Boy. Dawn came gray and cold. Dominic knocked on her door at 7. Time to move. We're getting Ava. Selena opened the door, forced herself to meet his eyes without flinching. Where is she? Oak Park facility, 20 minutes. Get dressed. She wore the same clothes as yesterday. No shower, no chance to wash off the grime and fear, just straight into another car, another journey, another lie. They drove in silence. Dominic checked his phone constantly, texting someone, coordinating something. The security detail followed. 2 cars, heavily armed men who'd kill on command. The facility looked like an extended stay hotel. Clean, nondescript, the kind of place corporate travelers stayed when relocating for work. Inside, they were escorted to a 3rd-floor suite. Ava sat on a couch, laptop open, looking bored and frustrated and alive. She looked up when the door opened. Selena, what the actual... Selena ran to her, wrapped her cousin in a hug that felt like drowning and breathing simultaneously. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? No, I'm fine, just confused. These guys keep saying I'm in danger but won't tell me from what. Ava pulled back, looked at Dominic. Who are you? A friend of Selena's family. He stayed by the door, relaxed, confident, the mask perfect again. We've had some security concerns. It's being handled. Security concerns? Ava's voice dripped skepticism. She looked at Selena. What's really going on? Selena opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say with Dominic listening? With his men outside? It's complicated, she managed. I'll explain everything, but right now I just needed to see you. Make sure you're safe. Ava studied her face, reading between words like she'd done their whole lives. You look like hell. Thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you slept? Ate something? Ava glanced at Dominic. Can we have a minute? Alone? No. Dominic didn't move. Security protocols. I'm talking to my cousin, not conducting espionage. Ava stood, small and fierce. Nursing student with 0 patience for bullshit. Give us 5 minutes, or I start screaming about kidnapping and see how your security protocols handle police response. For a moment, Selena thought Dominic would refuse, but he nodded once, stepped outside. The door closed. Immediately, Ava grabbed Selena's shoulders. Talk! Fast! Our grandfather was in organized crime. Left me billions. Multiple people want it. Dominic's one of them. He's been lying, using you as leverage to make me cooperate. The words tumbled out frantically. I have to leave. Tonight. There's someone who can help, but I can't let Dominic know or he'll stop me. Ava's eyes widened. This sounds insane. It is insane, but it's real. And I need you to trust me. Selena pulled out a scrap of paper she'd hidden in her pocket. Sophia's hotel information scribbled in tiny print. Memorize this. If something happens to me, go to this address. Ask for Sophia Moretti. Tell her everything. Selena, please. Her voice broke. Just trust me. Like I've always trusted you. Ava looked at the paper, looked at Selena, then nodded. Okay. What do you need me to do? Before Selena could answer, the door opened. Dominic stood there, expression unreadable. Time's up. Had he been listening? Could he hear through the door? Selena stood. I'll see you soon, she told Ava. Hugged her again. Whispered in her ear, don't trust anyone from his organization. Then she walked out before her nerve broke. The drive back to the safe house took forever. Selena stared out tinted windows and calculated odds. She needed to get away from Dominic, needed to reach Sophia, Needed proof that would protect both her and Ava from whatever conspiracy she'd stumbled into. But Dominic watched her now with sharper focus, like he knew something had shifted during those 5 minutes alone. "Your cousin seems nice," he said. "She is. Close relationship." "Very. Good. That matters when difficult decisions need to be made." He glanced at her. "In 3 days, I need you to sign documents transferring management authority of your holdings to a trust I've established. Standard practice for estates this size, protects you from liability, gives me legal authority to run operations until you're ready to take over." There it was. The real ask. The end game. "And if I refuse?" Selena asked. "Then we're back to square one, with Vittorio circling and your cousin unprotected." He said it so casually, like discussing lunch options. "I'm trying to help you, Selena, but I can't do that without the legal authority to move assets and make decisions." "You mean steal my inheritance?" The car went very quiet. "Excuse me?" Dominic's voice dropped to dangerous levels. "I heard you last night, on the phone, talking about getting me to sign documents, using Ava as leverage." Selena turned to face him fully. "So let's stop pretending this is protection. You want my grandfather's empire, and you'll do whatever it takes to get it." Dominic's expression flickered. Surprise, then calculation, then something almost like respect. "You were listening." "You weren't exactly quiet." He nodded slowly. "Then you know there's no point lying anymore." The mask dropped completely. What remained was colder, sharper. The real Dominic Vale emerging. "Yes, I want access to your grandfather's assets. I've spent a decade building relationships, maintaining networks, keeping everything functional after Matteo died. Without me, it would have collapsed. So yes, I believe I'm owed something for that work." "You killed him." Selena's hands clenched. "Didn't you? My grandfather. You murdered him to take control." "No." Dominic's answer came too fast, too defensive. "He was already dying, cancer, 6 months to live. He knew it, I knew it. The transition was supposed to be smooth. He'd sign over management. I'd run things. Everyone wins." "Then why lie about it?" "Because he changed his mind at the last minute. Started talking about bringing you into the family business, teaching you, grooming you to take over instead of me." Dominic's jaw clenched. After everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, he was going to hand it all to some college student who didn't even know the empire existed. "So you killed him." "He died of cancer, in a hospital, with nurses present." But Dominic's eyes shifted, just slightly. "What happened after?" "That was survival. I'd already committed 10 years, already made promises to investors and partners. If your grandfather's plan went through, everything would have collapsed. So yes, I adjusted the timeline, made sure certain things were in place before he could change his will." Selena felt sick. "You let him die. Could have saved him. Chose not to." "I chose to preserve his legacy instead of watching it burn because of sentimental attachment to family." Dominic leaned forward. "And now you have a choice. Sign the documents. Let me continue doing what I've been doing successfully for years. In exchange, you and Ava stay safe, comfortable, rich. You can go back to your normal life knowing your family's empire is in good hands. Or I stop being nice." His voice went flat. "Ava's in my custody. You're in my custody. I have documents a lawyer could argue give me authority already. I wanted your cooperation because it's cleaner, but if you force my hand..." He didn't finish, didn't need to. The car pulled into the warehouse district, back to the safe house, back to captivity. Selena's mind raced. She had maybe hours before Dominic forced her to sign, maybe less. Ava was hostage whether he admitted it or not, and Sophia Moretti was the only person who might have proof to stop him. They walked into the loft. Security swept the space again. Dominic settled into his chair by the door. "I need to use the bathroom," Selena said. "Go ahead." She walked to the small bathroom in the back, closed the door, stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. This was it, the point where she either broke or became something else entirely. The window was small, painted black, but underneath the paint, she could see hinges, old hinges, maybe functional. Selena grabbed a towel, wrapped it around her hand. punched through the painted glass as quietly as possible. The sound still seemed deafening. She froze, waited for footsteps, shouting, nothing. Maybe they hadn't heard over the sound of the city outside. Maybe she had seconds. She cleared the glass, pulled herself up to the window. It was barely wide enough for her shoulders. The drop looked like 15 feet to an alley below. Behind her, the bathroom door rattled. Selena? She dropped through the window, hit concrete hard enough to knock the air from her lungs, rolled, forced herself upright despite the pain screaming through her ankle. Above, shouting. Dominic's voice cutting through. Find her! Now! Selena ran. Pain lanced through Selena's ankle with every step, but she didn't stop moving. The alley spat her onto a side street she didn't recognize. Industrial zone. Empty lots. Graffiti-tagged walls that had seen better decades. Behind her, voices shouted commands in tones that promised violence if she was caught. Dominic's men spreading through the neighborhood like infection. She limped toward the main street. Every instinct screamed to run faster, but her ankle wouldn't cooperate. Twisted on landing. Maybe sprained. Maybe broken. Didn't matter. Keep moving or die trying. A car horn blared. She'd stumbled into traffic without looking. Yellow cab swerved around her with a curse from the driver. Selena waved frantically, hobbling after it. The cab stopped. Window rolled down. Middle-aged guy. Tired eyes. Coffee-stained shirt. Lady, you okay? Palmer House Hotel. Selena yanked open the back door, threw herself inside. Now, please. You're bleeding. I'll pay triple. Just drive. That got through. Money always did. The cab pulled away from the curb as Dominic's men burst onto the street behind them. One of them, the Slavic guy with the scarred eyebrow, locked eyes with Selena through the rear window. He raised his phone, started talking. The cab turned a corner, lost visual. Selena slumped against cracked vinyl seats and tried to remember how to breathe. Rough night, the driver asked. Something like that. You need a hospital? She looked down. Blood soaked through her jeans from glass cuts and the ankle injury, palm torn up from breaking the window. She looked like she'd crawled through a war zone. Just the hotel, fast as you can. The driver hit the gas. Chicago blurred past. Morning commuters flooding the streets. Normal people heading to normal jobs. None of them knew about empires built on corpses and family legacies soaked in blood. Selena's hands shook. She clenched them into fists, forced clarity through the pain and adrenaline. Sophia was at the Palmer House, room 412, had proof that Dominic killed her grandfather. But Dominic would be calling in every resource he had to find Selena before she reached Sophia, and Ava was still in his custody. The thought of Ava made her stomach clench. If Dominic realized Selena had run, would he hurt her cousin? Use her as bait? No, not yet. He'd need Ava alive to have leverage. The cruelty was a calculated move. Keep the hostage breathing until the target surrendered. The cab pulled up to the Palmer House, historic hotel in the Loop, old money and tourist crowds mixing in the ornate lobby. $42.50, the driver said. Selena pulled bills from her pocket, crumpled 20s and 10s from tips she'd never deposited, threw 3 20s at him. Keep it. She limped into the lobby before he could ask questions. The Palmer House's opulence felt obscene after the warehouse and the alley. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, people in business suits conducting business that looked legitimate and probably wasn't. Selena tried to walk normally, despite the limp. Tried not to notice the blood trail she was leaving. A concierge stepped toward her. Miss, are you meeting someone? Room 412. She kept moving toward the elevators. Perhaps we should call... I'm fine. Thank you. The elevator doors closed before he could follow. Selena leaned against the wall and watched floor numbers climb. Her reflection in the polished brass looked feral, hair wild. Mascara from 2 days ago smeared like war paint, blood and dirt and desperation. 4th floor. The hallway stretched long and carpeted. Selena found 412, knocked with shaking knuckles. Silence. She knocked again, harder. Sophia Moretti, my name is Selena. I'm Matteo's granddaughter. I need... The door opened. The woman standing there looked nothing like the ghost Selena had imagined. Mid-60s, gray hair cut sharp, elegant even in casual clothes, eyes that assessed Selena in one sweep and saw everything. Madonna, Sophia breathed. You look like him, your grandfather, around the eyes. She grabbed Selena's arm, pulled her inside. How badly are you hurt? Twisted ankle, cuts, nothing fatal. Yet. Sophia locked the door. Multiple deadbolts, chain, then turned to face Selena fully. Dominic knows you're here? He knows I ran. Probably figured out where I'm going. Selena limped to the window. Chicago sprawled below. You said you have proof he killed my grandfather. I have better than proof. I have witnesses, documents, a paper trail showing Dominic systematically positioned himself to steal your inheritance the moment Matteo died. Sophia moved to a laptop on the desk, opened files. But first you need to understand who Dominic Vale really is, and why your grandfather made the mistake of trusting him. She pulled up a photograph. Younger Dominic, maybe 25, in military uniform. Handsome, intense. The same dark eyes, but without the weight of decades. Dominic was Special Forces, Delta. 3 tours in places the government won't admit we had soldiers. Sophia clicked through more images. Combat zones. Classified briefings. He was recruited by your grandfather after a mission went wrong. Dominic's entire team died. He survived, barely. Came home decorated and traumatized and looking for purpose. Another image. Dominic shaking hands with an older man. Matteo Moretti. Selena's breath caught. Her grandfather looked exactly how she'd always imagined. Powerful, composed, dangerous in the way of men who'd built empires from nothing. Matteo saw potential, gave Dominic a job running security. Within 5 years, Dominic was managing operations. Within 10, he was indispensable. Sophia's voice hardened. But Matteo didn't see the ambition, didn't realize that Dominic wasn't satisfied being second. He wanted to be first. So he killed him. Not directly. That's what makes it clever. Sophia pulled up medical records, handwritten notes. Your grandfather had pancreatic cancer, stage 4, diagnosed 18 months before he died. Prognosis was 6 to 8 months. He chose aggressive treatment, experimental drugs. It was working. He was gaining time. She clicked to another document. Then suddenly his condition deteriorated. Rapid decline. Dead within 3 weeks. The doctors called it aggressive cancer. Natural progression. But it wasn't. I had the medical records analyzed by an independent oncologist. Friend from medical school. She found irregularities, dosage adjustments that didn't make sense. Medications that would have accelerated the cancer rather than slowed it. Sophia met Selena's eyes. Someone was altering Matteo's treatment, killing him slowly, making it look natural. Selena's legs went liquid. She sat on the bed before she fell. Dominic had access? Complete access. He visited Matteo every day during treatment, brought food, coffee, handled communications with the medical team. Your grandfather trusted him completely. Sophia's expression twisted with old anger. And Dominic used that trust to commit murder, slowly, carefully, while positioning himself to inherit everything the moment Matteo died. Why didn't you stop him? Because I was in witness protection, living under a different name in Florida. Matteo and I hadn't spoken in 28 years. By the time I heard he was sick, it was too late. Sophia closed the laptop. I've spent the last 2 years gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for you to surface so I could warn you. Warn me that Dominic's a murderer. Warn you that he'll do the same thing to you the moment he has what he wants. The only reason you're still alive is because he needs your signature, your cooperation. The second those documents are signed, she didn't finish, didn't need to. Selena stood, paced despite the pain. Ava, my cousin, she's still with his people. I know. I've been monitoring the situation. Sophia pulled out her own phone. I have contacts. Not many, but enough. If we move carefully, we can extract her before Dominic realizes you've gone to the authorities. The authorities won't help. Dominic's connected, rich. He'll lawyer his way out of anything we throw at him. Not if we go public. Media, federal prosecutors, simultaneous strike before he can shut it down. Sophia's eyes glittered. I spent 3 decades learning how to expose criminals who think they're untouchable. Dominic Vale is arrogant, overconfident. He's made mistakes, left evidence. We can destroy him. And Ava dies while we're building a case. Selena shook her head. No, I need to get her out first, then we burn him. That's too dangerous. I don't care. She's my family. I'm not leaving her in his hands. Selina's voice came out harder than she'd ever heard it. Something shifting inside her, breaking and reforming into something sharper. You want Dominic to pay for what he did to my grandfather? Help me save Ava. Then we'll make him pay for everything. Sophia studied her, then slowly smiled. You sound like Matteo. Good. Maybe that means I'll survive this. Her phone, the one Dominic had destroyed, was useless, but Sophia had burner phones. Selina dialed the Oak Park facility from memory, asked for Ava's room. Long pause, transfer, another pause. Then, Miss Moretti is no longer at this location. Selina's blood froze. Where is she? I'm not authorized to share that information. If you'd like to speak with... She hung up, looked at Sophia. They moved her. Dominic's playing it smart. Relocated her the moment you ran. Sophia was already typing on her laptop. But every movement leaves traces. Phone signals, credit card transactions, security footage. Her fingers flew across keys. I have someone who can track these things. Former FBI tech analyst. Owes me a favor. How long? Hours. Maybe less if we're lucky. We don't have hours. Selina grabbed Sophia's phone. Dialed Dominic's number. The one from his business card that felt like years ago instead of 2 days. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? Somewhere you can't find me, yet. Selina forced steel into her voice. We need to talk. We needed to talk before you jumped out a window and ran. Now we're past talking. Then what are we? Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. When Dominic spoke again, his voice carried the flatness of someone who'd made a decision and wouldn't be swayed from it. You have one chance to fix this. Come back. Sign the documents. Ava goes home safely. You get to live your life. I get what I'm owed. Everyone wins. Except my dead grandfather, who you murdered. More silence. Sophia's been talking. Sophia's been telling the truth. Something you've never done. Truth is relative. Your grandfather was dying. I accelerated the timeline, saved him months of suffering. No remorse. No guilt. Just cold calculation. And in exchange, I preserved his empire. Kept it functional and profitable. That's worth something. It's worth a murder charge. Dominic laughed. Actually laughed. You think you can prove that? With what evidence? Medical records that show a cancer patient died of cancer? Testimony from an exiled family member who turned informant and has every reason to lie? His voice sharpened. You're smarter than this, Selina. You know how the world works. Money buys lawyers. Lawyers bury evidence. Evidence disappears. I will never see the inside of a courtroom. Maybe not. But I can make your life very difficult. Go public. Tell every news outlet that you stole a dying man's empire. Even if you don't go to prison, you'll be radioactive. No one will work with you. Your business relationships will evaporate. Everything you built will collapse. True, Dominic admitted, which is why I'm hoping we don't get there. Come back. We'll negotiate new terms. Better terms. You keep more control, I take less, but we do this as partners, not enemies. I don't partner with murderers. Then you're going to have a very lonely life in this business. His tone shifted, harder. Last chance. Come back in the next hour, or I start making different arrangements, ones that don't involve Ava walking away unharmed. The line went dead. Selina stared at the phone. Sophia watched her with eyes that had seen this game played before. He's bluffing, the older woman said. You sure about that? No. But if he hurts Ava, he loses his only leverage over you. He's too smart for that. Unless he's past caring about leverage. Unless I pushed him into making this personal. Selina's hands curled into fists. I need to know where she is. Now. Sophia's laptop chimed. She checked the screen. My contact came through. Ava's phone pinged a tower in Pilsen, industrial area, same general zone as the warehouse where you were held. He took her there, to the safe house. Probably. Makes tactical sense. He controls the location, knows the layout. Sophia pulled up a map. Multiple access points, but all of them monitored. You can't just walk in. Watch me. Selina, I'm not leaving her there. The words came out final. Absolute. My grandfather might have built an empire on violence, Dominic might think he can control me with threats, but Ava is innocent. She doesn't deserve to be a pawn in this, so I'm going to get her out. And if that means walking into a trap, fine. I'll spring it myself. Sophia closed her laptop. Then we're going to need weapons and backup, because if Dominic realizes you're coming, he'll be ready. Where do we get weapons? The older woman smiled grimly. Your grandfather wasn't the only one with connections. Some of his old people stayed loyal to the family. Not to Dominic, to the Moretti name. She pulled out her phone, made a call, spoke rapid Italian, listened, nodded. When she hung up, 20 minutes. A friend is bringing what we need. The friend arrived in an unmarked van. Older man, 60s, built like someone who'd spent decades doing physical work. He embraced Sophia like family, spoke Italian too fast for Selina to follow, then turned to her with eyes that went soft. Dio mio, sei Lucia. My God, you're Lucia. I loved your grandmother, would have died for her. He touched Selina's face gently. Your grandfather was my brother in everything but blood. What Dominic did, his jaw clenched. Some betrayals are unforgivable. Can you help us? Selina asked. He gestured to the van. Come, see. Inside, weapons lined the walls. Handguns, rifles, body armor, communication equipment. The arsenal of someone who'd been preparing for war. Take what you need, he said simply. Angelo and I will provide support, covering fire, extraction, whatever it takes. Angelo? Selina looked at Sophia. My husband. Long story. Relevant part is he's former military, and he loved your grandfather too. Sophia was already strapping on a bulletproof vest. Dominic has maybe 6 to 8 men at that safe house. We have 3. Bad odds. But we have surprise on our side. And motivation, Angelo added. He handed Selina a handgun. You know how to use this? No. Then I hope you're a fast learner. He spent 5 minutes showing her basics. Safety, grip, aim, breathe, squeeze. Don't think. Trust your instincts. And for God's sake, don't point it at anything you're not willing to destroy. Selina held the weapon like it might bite. The weight felt wrong, foreign, but also necessary, like she'd stepped across some threshold and couldn't go back. They planned quickly. Angelo would approach from the south, Sophia from the west. Both would create distractions while Selina went in through the bathroom window she'd escaped from. Get Ava, get out. Simple. Except nothing about this was simple. Dominic will kill you if he gets the chance, Sophia said. Don't hesitate. Don't give him that chance. I'm not a killer. Then you'll die. Or worse, Ava will. Sophia's voice turned hard. This isn't college. This isn't serving tables. This is survival. And survival sometimes means doing things that break you. But you live. That's what matters. They drove to Pilsen in silence. 3 people in a van full of weapons heading toward a confrontation that would end in blood no matter how it played out. The warehouse district looked the same. Empty. Industrial. No witnesses. Perfect location for things that needed to stay buried. Angelo parked 2 blocks away. Radio check. They each had earpieces. Sophia and Angelo confirmed theirs worked. Selina's crackled to life with static that made her jump. Easy, Angelo murmured. Fear is normal. Terror keeps you alive. Let it sharpen your senses. Don't let it freeze you. How did you do this? Selina asked. How did my grandfather live like this for years? By understanding that some things are worth the violence. Angelo met her eyes. Your family, your honor, your word. Matteo never killed for pleasure. Only necessity. Never forgot the weight of it. He checked his weapon. If you walk away from today, remember that. Every choice has a cost. Make sure you're willing to pay it. He and Sophia exited the van, disappeared into the urban landscape with professional silence. Selina sat alone with a gun in her hand and terror singing in her veins. The radio crackled. Sophia's voice. In position, then Angelo. Ready when you are? Selina took a breath, opened the van door, stepped back into the war she hadn't asked for but couldn't escape. The safe house loomed ahead. No visible guards, but they'd be inside. Watching. Waiting. She circled to the alley, found the bathroom window. Still broken. No one had repaired it. Overconfidence or oversight, either way, her entry point. Selena holstered the gun awkwardly, pulled herself through the window, dropped into the bathroom. The sound echoed like a gunshot in her ears. She froze, listened. Voices from the main room. Dominic's voice, angry. I don't care if she has Sophia helping her. They're amateurs. Find them before they do something stupid. Another voice, the Slavic guard. And the cousin? Keep her secure. She's our insurance policy. Selena's hand went to the gun. Drew it. Safety off, like Angelo taught her. She opened the bathroom door an inch, peered through. The main loft. 6 men, including Dominic, all armed, all focused on laptops and phones, coordinating the search for her across Chicago. And in the corner, zip-tied to a chair, Ava sat with duct tape over her mouth. Their eyes met. Ava's widened, terrified, pleading, trying to warn her without sound. Too late. Hello, Selena. She spun, found herself staring at Luca Serrano, Vittorio's nephew, the man who'd wanted to marry her. He stood in the hallway behind her with a gun pointed at her chest. Interesting turn of events, he said conversationally. Drop your weapon, slowly. The radio in her ear crackled. Sophia's voice urgent. Selena? We heard voices. What's happening? Selena let the gun clatter to the floor, raised her hands. Luca smiled, kicked the weapon away. Boss, he called. Guess who came home? Footsteps. Multiple. Dominic appeared with his men. His expression when he saw Selena was unreadable. Not angry, not relieved, just resigned, like he'd hoped she'd be smarter but knew she wouldn't be. Luca, he said quietly, what are you doing here? My uncle sent me. To observe. Make sure his interests were protected. Luca's gun never wavered from Selena. Imagine my surprise when she walked right in. This isn't your concern. It became my concern when she refused a very generous marriage proposal. My uncle doesn't appreciate disrespect. Luca glanced at Ava. Back to Selena. Here's what's going to happen. Miss Moretti will sign whatever documents you need, then she's coming with me. My uncle has a plane waiting. By tonight, she'll be in Sicily, where traditions about family obligations are respected. No. Dominic's voice went cold. That's not the arrangement. Arrangements change. Luca's smile turned predatory. Surely you understand. Business is business. Dominic moved his hand toward his weapon. 3 of Luca's men materialized from the shadows, all armed, all trained, outnumbering Dominic's crew. Don't, Luca warned. I'd hate for this to get messy. The standoff stretched. 2 factions, 1 hostage, 1 escaped prisoner, and somewhere outside, Sophia and Angelo waiting for a signal that might never come. Selena's mind raced. If Luca took her to Sicily, she'd disappear. Forced marriage. Prisoner of the Serrano family. Ava would still be Dominic's hostage. Sophia's evidence would rot unused. Everyone lost except the men with guns. I'll sign, Selena said. Both men looked at her. I'll sign Dominic's documents. Transfer everything, whatever he wants. She met Dominic's eyes. On one condition, Ava goes free, right now. You put her in a car and send her somewhere safe. Then I'll give you what you want. Don't be stupid, Luca snapped. You have no leverage. I have the only leverage that matters. My signature. Without it, this empire is frozen, useless, tied up in courts for decades. Selena's voice strengthened. Dominic knows that. It's why he didn't just forge the documents. Why he needs me willing and cooperative. Dominic stared at her, calculation flickering behind his eyes. You'd give up billions to save your cousin. Every cent, every asset. I don't care about money. I care about her. Selena glanced at Ava. Let her go. You get your empire. Luca gets nothing. Vittorio can go to hell. But Ava walks out of here alive. That's the deal. Silence filled the loft. Outside, sirens wailed. Not close. Never close enough in neighborhoods like this. Then Dominic holstered his weapon. Cut her loose. You can't be serious, Luca started. Cut. Her. Loot them. Dominic's voice carried absolute authority. She's useless as a hostage anyway. The minute she's harmed, Selena will never cooperate. You know it. I know it. He looked at Selena. You'll sign? Everything? Full transfer of assets? The second Ava is safe. He nodded once, gestured to his men. They moved to Ava. cut the zip ties, pulled the duct tape off. She gasped, chest heaving. "Selena," she started. "Go," Selena said. "Don't argue. Don't look back. Just go." "I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice." Selena's voice broke. "Please. For me. Get out. Tell Sophia what happened. She'll know what to do." Ava's eyes filled, but she nodded. "Let Dominic's men escort her toward the door." Luca moved to block them. "This is a mistake. Vittorio won't—" Dominic was faster than anyone expected. One moment standing still, the next his fist connected with Luca's jaw. The younger man dropped. Chaos erupted. Luca's men raised weapons. Dominic's men returned the favor, everyone shouting, no one firing yet. The entire situation balanced on a knife edge, and in the confusion, Ava ran, out the door, gone, safe. Selena felt something inside her chest unclench, then immediately tighten again because now she had nothing left to bargain with. Dominic turned to her. "The documents are on the desk. Sign them. We end this." Selena walked to the desk, found the papers. Thick stack of legal language she couldn't fully parse. Transfer of assets. Management authority. Everything she'd never wanted handed over to the man who'd killed her grandfather. She picked up a pen. "Don't do it." Sophia's voice rang through the loft. She stood in the doorway, gun raised, Angelo beside her, both aiming at Dominic. "Sophia." Dominic didn't sound surprised. "I was wondering when you'd make your entrance." "Step away from her." "Or what? You'll shoot me in front of witnesses? Start a war between families?" Dominic smiled without warmth. "You've been out of the game too long, forgotten how it works." "I haven't forgotten anything." Sophia's gun never wavered. "Including the fact that you murdered my brother, and now you're trying to steal his granddaughter's inheritance. Her grandfather was already dying. You helped him along, altered his medications, killed him slowly." Sophia's voice shook with rage. "I have evidence, witnesses, everything needed to prove it." "Then prove it." Dominic spread his hands. "Take it to the police, the FBI. Watch them file it away, because proving medical murder is nearly impossible without confession or direct testimony from the medical staff, who are all dead or disappeared." His expression hardened. "You have nothing but theory and bitter family grudges." "I have her," Sophia gestured to Selena. "Matteo's heir, the legitimate successor. Once she knows the truth, she already knows." "Don't you, Selena?" Dominic looked at her. "She knows I killed her grandfather, knows I'm planning to steal her inheritance, and she's signing the documents anyway, because that's what smart people do. They accept reality. They compromise. They survive." Selena's hand trembled on the pen. Everyone in the loft watching her. Dominic, Sophia, Angelo, Luca's men and Dominic's men, all of them waiting to see what choice she'd make. Sign and betray her grandfather's memory. Keep the empire in the hands of his murderer. Refuse and risk everything. Start a war she didn't know how to fight. Her grandfather's face from the photograph in Sophia's hotel room filled her mind. Strong, certain. A man who'd built something from nothing and protected it with everything he had. What would he do? Selena looked at the documents, at Dominic's expectant expression, at Sophia's desperate plea in her eyes. Then she picked up the papers and tore them in half. "No deal," she said quietly. The room exploded. Luca's men opened fire. Dominic's men returned shots. Sophia and Angelo dove for cover. Muzzle flashes lit the loft like a lightning storm. The sound deafening, overwhelming. Selena dropped to the floor, covered her head. Bullets punched through walls and shattered glass. Someone screamed. Someone fell. A hand grabbed her arm, Dominic, dragging her toward cover behind the overturned desk. "You stupid girl," he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you just started?" "A war?" Selena pulled away from him. "Good. Maybe that's what this family needs. A real fight instead of everyone pretending to be civilized while stabbing each other in the back." More gunfire. A window exploded. One of Luca's men went down holding his leg. Sophia appeared from behind a concrete pillar. "Selena, this way!" Dominic grabbed for Selena again. She twisted away, scrambled toward Sophia. Angelo provided covering fire, controlled bursts that sent Dominic's men diving. They reached the bathroom, the window. Freedom. "Go!" Angelo shouted. He was bleeding from his shoulder, still shooting, still holding the line. Sophia climbed through first. Selena followed. Halfway out when Dominic appeared in the doorway, he raised his weapon, aimed at Sophia. Selena didn't think, just moved, launched herself back through the window, crashed into Dominic. They went down in a tangle of limbs and violence. His gun skittered across the floor. They scrambled for it. Selena reached it first. Her fingers closed around cold metal. She rolled, pointed it at Dominic. They stared at each other across 3 feet of bathroom floor, both breathing hard, both past the point of negotiation. "Do it," Dominic said quietly. "Pull the trigger. Kill me like I killed your grandfather." Selena's finger tightened on the trigger. "You want to be like him? Like Mateo?" Dominic's voice dropped. "Then understand what it means. Every empire is built on bodies. Every throne sits on bones. You think your grandfather was a good man? He was practical, ruthless. He did what needed doing and never apologized. He didn't murder his allies. He murdered dozens of people who trusted him, when it served the family, when it protected the empire." Dominic's eyes locked onto hers. "The difference between us isn't morality. It's that I'm honest about what this life requires, and you're still pretending there's a clean way through." Selena's hand shook. Behind Dominic, the firefight continued. People dying, bleeding, all because she'd refused to sign papers, all because she'd chosen honor over survival. "Sophia's evidence," she said. "It's enough? To raise questions? Maybe. To convict me?" Dominic smiled grimly. "Not likely. But it would damage me, cost me relationships, force me to spend years rebuilding trust." "Good." She pulled the trigger. The gun clicked empty. Dominic's expression didn't change. "I removed the ammunition while you were watching Ava get freed. Couldn't risk you doing something heroic and stupid." He stood, extended his hand. "Last chance, Selena. Work with me. Let me teach you how this world really operates. Or keep fighting and watch everyone you love die. Your choice." Selena stared at his hand, then at the empty gun. Through the bathroom window, she heard sirens, real ones, getting closer. Someone had called the police. "Cops are coming," one of Dominic's men shouted from the main room. "We need to evacuate." Dominic's hand remained extended. "Well?" Selena threw the empty gun at his face. He dodged. She dove through the window, landed in the alley. Pain exploded through her already injured ankle. Didn't matter. Sophia grabbed her arm, pulled her toward a running van. They piled inside. Angelo driving despite his shoulder wound, engine roaring to life, tires squealing as they pulled away. Behind them, the safe house erupted with police lights and shouting. They'd escaped, barely. Bloodied, but alive. "What now?" Selena gasped. Blood on her hands. Dominic's? Hers. Someone's. Sophia pulled out her phone. "Now we go nuclear. Everything I have, every piece of evidence, leaked to every media outlet simultaneously. Federal prosecutors, international authorities." Her eyes blazed. "Dominic wanted war? He's got it. We burn his empire to the ground." Angelo drove through Chicago's streets, sirens fading behind them, dawn breaking over the skyline, the city waking up to another day while underground, the real Chicago tore itself apart. Selena leaned back against the van wall, exhausted, terrified, but alive. Ava was safe. Sophia and Angelo were alive. And Dominic's perfect control was fracturing. The empire her grandfather built was at war, and she was in the center of it, whether she wanted to be or not. Her phone, Sophia's burner, buzzed. Text from an unknown number. She opened it with shaking hands. The message simple, devastating. "This isn't over. I made your grandfather a promise. I'll keep it, even if it means saving you from yourself. DV." Selena stared at the text, then she deleted it and started planning how to destroy the man who thought he owned her future. The media storm broke at dawn. Sophia had spent 30 years learning how to dismantle empires. She'd testified against her own brother, watched organizations crumble under the weight of evidence she'd helped gather. Now she unleashed everything against Dominic Vale. Medical records showing suspicious treatment alterations. Witness statements from former employees who'd seen Dominic manipulating Mateo's medications. Financial documents tracing money flows that only made sense if someone had been systematically positioning themselves to steal an inheritance. Timeline analyses proving Dominic had been consolidating control months before Mateo's death. She sent it to the Chicago Tribune, the Wall Street Journal, federal prosecutors, the FBI, Interpol, every outlet simultaneously at 6 a.m. when news cycles were hungry and fact-checkers were still drinking their first coffee. By 7 a.m., Dominic Vale's name was trending. By 8 a.m., federal agents were surrounding his properties. Selena watched it unfold from Sophia's hotel room. The older woman had insisted they stay mobile. Keep moving. Never sleep in the same place twice until this was finished. The television showed reporters camped outside the Aurelius Tower, outside Dominic's penthouse building, outside the offices of Vale Enterprises, all of them asking the same questions. Did billionaire Dominic Vale murder Matteo Moretti to steal his fortune? Sources say medical evidence suggests foul play. Federal investigation underway. Selena's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers. Reporters who'd somehow found her. She ignored them all except one. Ava. "Are you okay?" her cousin asked immediately. "I saw the news. Jesus Christ, Selena, what's happening?" "It's almost over." Selena's voice sounded hollow even to herself. "Stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone. I'll explain everything soon. The guys who were holding me just let me go. Put me in a cab. Told me not to look back." Ava's breath hitched. "They said you saved me, that you traded yourself." "Something like that." "Selena, I have to go. I love you. Stay safe." She ended the call before her composure cracked. Sophia emerged from the bathroom. She'd been on the phone for hours, coordinating with prosecutors, feeding additional evidence, tightening the noose around Dominic's neck. Federal agents just arrested 3 of his top people, she said, charged with obstruction, money laundering. They're building a RICO case. Could take months. But Dominic's empire is bleeding. Banks are freezing accounts. Partners are distancing themselves. Everything he built is collapsing. Good. Selena didn't feel the satisfaction she'd expected. Just exhaustion, bone-deep weariness that made her want to sleep for a year. There's something else. Sophia sat beside her. Your grandfather's will. The real one. Not the version Dominic had his lawyers prepare. She pulled out documents, old paper, yellowed with age. I've had this for 2 years. Matteo gave it to me 3 months before he died. Mailed it to my witness protection address with instructions not to open it unless something happened to him. Selena's hands trembled as she took the papers. Her grandfather's handwriting, precise, careful. The words of a man who knew he was dying. To my granddaughter Selena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if Sophia is giving this to you, it means something went wrong with my plans. I tried to build something legitimate from a criminal empire. Tried to give you a future that didn't require blood on your hands. But I've made enemies. Powerful ones who won't forget or forgive. Dominic Vale was supposed to protect you. I trusted him. Gave him everything he needed to keep the empire functional while you grew up safe and ignorant. But men like Dominic, they're never satisfied. They always want more. If he's betrayed my trust, Sophia will help you. Listen to her. She knows this world better than I wanted you to ever know it. The empire is yours. Every asset, every connection, every dollar. Use it wisely or walk away from it entirely. I'll love you either way. Just survive, Piccola. That's all I ask. Survive and be better than I was. Your grandfather, Matteo. Selena read it 3 times. Tears streaming down her face she didn't bother wiping away. He knew, she whispered. He knew Dominic might betray him. Matteo was many things. Stupid wasn't one of them. Sophia's voice carried old grief. He saw the ambition in Dominic, the hunger, but he thought loyalty could be bought with generosity, with trust. She shook her head. Some men can't be bought. They can only be contained or eliminated. What do I do now? That's your choice. The empire exists. It's legitimate now. Shipping companies, real estate holdings, investment portfolios, worth billions, all legally transferred to you through the proper will that's now being executed by courts. Sophia met her eyes. You can take control, run it, become what your grandfather was. Or you can sell everything, walk away, live a normal life. Is there a normal life after this? No, but there's something close to peace if you're willing to accept it. Selena looked at the television, Dominic's face plastered across every news channel, His empire crumbling in real time. Federal agents seizing property. Partners fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. She should feel triumph, victory, justice for her grandfather. Instead, she just felt tired. Her phone buzzed, text from unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her check. Roof of the Palmer house, midnight, come alone. One last conversation before this ends. DV, she showed Sophia. The older woman's expression hardened. It's a trap. Probably. You're not seriously considering, he said, one last conversation. I think I owe him that. Selena stood. Her ankles still throbbed, but she could walk. He spent 2 years protecting me, even if it was for selfish reasons. Even if he killed my grandfather, I need to hear what he has to say. He'll kill you. Maybe, but I don't think so. If he wanted me dead, I'd be dead already. She checked the gun Sophia had given her, still loaded this time. I'm going. You can follow if you want, provide backup, but I'm going. Sophia studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You sound like Mateo, stubborn, reckless, brave in all the wrong ways. She pulled out her own weapon. Angelo and I will be watching. Anything goes wrong, we intervene. Fair enough. The hours until midnight crawled by like wounded animals. Selena tried to rest. Failed. Stared at the ceiling and thought about her grandfather, about the empire he'd built, about the violence required to create something from nothing. Could she walk away from billions, from power, from the legacy he'd left her? Or was she already too deep? Already transformed by the last 48 hours into something that couldn't go back to serving tables and paying student loans? The question haunted her until darkness fell, and it was time to face Dominic one last time. The Palmer House roof was empty at midnight. Chicago spread below like a circuit board. Million points of light, each one a life being lived, dreams being chased, people who had no idea about the wars being fought in penthouses and hotel rooftops. Selena stepped onto the gravel roof. Wind cut through her borrowed coat. She kept her hand on the gun in her pocket. I wasn't sure you'd come. Dominic's voice came from the shadows near the roof access door. He stepped into moonlight. No weapon visible, no guards, just him in the same suit he'd worn for days. Rumpled now, tie loose, the veneer of control finally cracking. I almost didn't, Selena admitted. But curiosity won. He moved to the roof edge, leaned against the low wall like they were having drinks at a bar instead of a final confrontation. You destroyed me. You know that? You destroyed yourself. I just helped the evidence find the right people. True enough. Dominic pulled out a flask, drank, didn't offer to share. Federal agents froze my accounts. Partners are fleeing. Lawyers are telling me to expect indictment within the week. Everything I built, gone. Because you wouldn't sign some papers. Because you murdered my grandfather. I helped a dying man die faster. There's a difference. Not to me. They stood in silence, wind howling, city breathing below. I loved him, Dominic said finally. Your grandfather. He gave me purpose when I came back from the war empty, broken. He taught me everything about this world, made me into something more than a soldier. His hands clenched on the flask. And he was going to throw me away for you. Some college kid who knew nothing about sacrifice or loyalty or what it takes to build something that lasts. So you killed him. I preserved his legacy. There's a difference. Dominic's voice rose. You think you could have run this empire? You can barely survive 2 days of people trying to kill you. Your grandfather built something that required ruthlessness, vision, the willingness to make decisions that haunt you forever. You don't have that. Maybe not, but I'm still alive, and you're going to prison. Maybe. Probably. Dominic finished the flask, threw it off the roof. They listened to it shatter on concrete far below. But I kept my promise. You're alive, protected. Even now, there are people who would come for you if I hadn't spent the last 2 years building walls around you that even Vittorio Serrano couldn't breach. Walls built on my grandfather's corpse. Everything in this world is built on corpses. Your grandfather knew that. Why don't you? Selena pulled out the gun, pointed it at him. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Dominic looked at the weapon, then at her. No fear in his eyes, just weariness that matched her own. Because you're not a killer. Not yet. Maybe someday if you stay in this life. But tonight, you're still the girl who served pasta and worried about student loans. You haven't crossed that line. He stepped closer to the gun. But if you want to, go ahead. Pull the trigger. Add my body to the foundation of your empire. I won't stop you. Selena's finger tightened. Her hand shook. Behind her, she sensed Sophia and Angelo somewhere in the shadows, watching, ready to intervene. What did my grandfather see in you? She asked. A weapon. A tool. Something useful. Dominic's voice went quiet. Same thing he saw in everyone. Your grandfather wasn't sentimental. He loved you, yes. But he would have sacrificed you if it meant protecting the empire. That's who he was. A man who understood that some things matter more than individual lives. You're wrong. The letter he left said, I know what his letter said. Sophia showed it to the prosecutors. Sweet words about wanting you safe, wanting you to choose your own path. Dominic laughed bitterly. But actions matter more than words. And his actions were grooming you to take over, teaching you Italian, making sure you understood family history. He was preparing you whether you knew it or not. The words hit hard because they might be true. Selena thought about her grandmother's stories, the language lessons, the emphasis on family loyalty. Had she ever really had a choice, or was this always where she'd end up? I could have been different, Dominic continued. Could have asked you to partner with me honestly, shared control, built something together. He met her eyes. But I was afraid. Afraid you'd say no. Afraid you'd sell everything and destroy what Matteo spent his life creating. So I tried to control you, force your hand, and I lost everything. Good. Is it? He gestured at the city. You have billions now. An empire. Responsibilities to hundreds of employees who depend on those businesses functioning. What are you going to do with it? Sell to the highest bidder? Let it be carved up by people who'll strip the assets and leave nothing but ruin? I haven't decided. Then decide. Because empires don't wait. They grow or they die. There's no middle ground. Dominic pulled something from his pocket. Envelope. He held it out. One last thing. From your grandfather. He left it with me years ago. Told me to give it to you if things went wrong. Selena lowered the gun slightly. Took the envelope with her free hand. Inside, a photograph. Younger Matteo Moretti holding a baby. The infant wrapped in pink blankets. Matteo's expression unguarded in a way he'd probably never been photographed before. Pure love and terror mixed together. On the back, his handwriting, Selena, 3 days old. The day I realized everything I'd built might destroy her. The day I started trying to change. Tears blurred Selena's vision. He loved you, Dominic said quietly. More than the empire, more than anything. And he died knowing he'd failed to keep you safe from this world. He stepped back from the gun. So do what he couldn't. Walk away. Sell everything. Take your billions and disappear. Live the normal life he wanted for you. And you? I'll take whatever punishment comes. Prison. Probably 20 years if the feds get their way. I'll survive. I always do. He moved toward the roof access door. But if you stay in this life, if you take control of the empire, we'll meet again someday, when you understand what your grandfather understood, that sometimes the people you love have to be sacrificed for something larger. He walked away, disappeared into the stairwell. Selena stood alone on the roof with a gun in one hand and a photograph in the other. Behind her, Sophia emerged from the shadows. He's right about one thing. The empire needs decisions, soon. What would my grandfather want? He'd want you safe, happy, far from all of this. Sophia moved beside her, looked at the photograph. But he'd also want his legacy preserved, the legitimate businesses, the jobs, the infrastructure he built from blood and sacrifice. I can't do both. No, you can't. Sophia's hand rested on Selena's shoulder. But you can find a middle path. Take control, not as a crime lord, as a businesswoman. Run the empire legitimately, use the resources to do good, fund charities, create opportunities, transform what Matteo started into something he'd be proud of. You make it sound simple. It won't be. It'll be hard, exhausting. People will try to kill you for years. Partners will betray you. Enemies will keep coming. Sophia smiled sadly. But you'll survive, because you're Mateo's granddaughter, and survival is in your blood. Selena looked at the city, at the empire waiting below, at the choice that would define the rest of her life. Walk away or step forward, safety or purpose, peace or power. There was no right answer, just the answer she could live with. 3 months later, the Valle Moretti Foundation headquarters overlooked the Chicago River. Glass and steel, modern, clean, the kind of building that announced legitimacy without apology. Selena stood in her office on the 40th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, the same view Dominic had from his penthouse, but transformed into something new. On her desk, documents waited for signature. Charitable trust formations, business restructuring agreements. Legal frameworks that would take her grandfather's empire and aim it towards something better. Ava worked 2 floors down, Director of Community Outreach, using her nursing background to build healthcare initiatives in underserved neighborhoods. She'd forgiven Selena for the lies. Mostly. The trust was rebuilding slowly. Sophia served as Chief Operating Officer, her decades of experience proving invaluable as they navigated the complicated transition from criminal empire to legitimate enterprise. The federal charges against Dominic had given them leverage. Frozen his assets, made it easier to consolidate control without his interference. Angelo ran security. Former military precision applied to protecting what they were building. Dominic himself sat in federal prison awaiting trial. His lawyers had negotiated a plea deal. 22 years. He'd be 70 before he walked free. Sometimes Selena thought about visiting him. Mostly, she tried not to think about him at all. The empire had stabilized, shipping companies operating profitably, real estate holdings generating consistent revenue, investment portfolios managed by people who understood fiduciary duty. It would never be what Mateo had built. The edges were softer, the ruthlessness tempered by legal compliance and ethical oversight. But it survived, and it provided good jobs to thousands of people, funded schools and hospitals, moved legitimate cargo that fed economies. Selena picked up the photograph from her desk, her grandfather holding her as an infant, the last piece of him she had beyond paperwork and money. "I'm trying," she whispered to the image. "I don't know if it's what you wanted, but I'm trying to be better than both of us." A knock on the door, her assistant. "Miss Moretti, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes. I'll be right there." She straightened her suit, checked her reflection. No longer the broke server drowning in debt. No longer the frightened girl running through warehouses. Something else now. Something harder, sharper. Forged in violence and betrayal into a shape she was still learning to inhabit. The board meeting went smoothly. Quarterly profits up. New initiatives approved. Partners satisfied. Everything running like machinery that had found its rhythm. Afterwards, Selena returned to her office. Found an envelope on her desk that hadn't been there before. No return address. No postage. Hand-delivered by someone who'd bypassed security. She opened it carefully. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Handwriting she recognized. "You're doing well, better than I expected. The empire is in good hands. Your grandfather would be proud. Even if he'd never admit it. 3 things to remember. 1. Trust is currency. Spend it wisely. 2. Enemies never stop coming. Stay sharp. 3. Family is everything, even when it's complicated. I'll be watching, from a distance, making sure the walls I built around you still hold. DV." Selena stared at the note. Dominic was in federal prison. Maximum security. How had he gotten a letter out? Through lawyers? Corrupt guards? Old connections that still owed him favors? She should tell Sophia. Alert security. Investigate the breach. Instead, she folded the note carefully, placed it in her desk drawer with her grandfather's photograph. Some ghost couldn't be exorcised, only acknowledged, only remembered. The city glowed below as evening settled, Chicago breathing in its eternal rhythm. Selena pressed her hand against the glass, felt the cold seeping through. She'd inherited an empire built on blood, transformed it into something that might actually matter. Saved Ava. Survived men who'd tried to use her or kill her or force her into cages disguised as crowns. The cost had been her innocence, her illusions about the world, her belief that good people always won and bad people always lost. But she'd gained something too: purpose, power, the ability to protect the people she loved and help those who couldn't help themselves. Was it worth it? She didn't know yet. Maybe she'd never know. But she was still standing, still breathing, still fighting, and in this world her grandfather had taught her, survival was its own kind of victory. Behind her, the office door opened. Ava appeared with takeout containers. Figured you'd forget to eat. Again. Selena smiled. Real smile. Probably the first in months. You're not wrong. They ate together in the office. Talked about normal things, movies, books, the guy Ava was dating who worked at the hospital, life continuing despite everything. Outside, snow began to fall. Chicago transforming into a winter postcard. Clean white covering the dirt and blood. Temporary beauty before the streets turned to gray slush. But for this moment, watching snow with her cousin beside her, Selena let herself believe in fresh starts. In second chances. In the possibility that empires built on darkness could transform into something that mattered. Her grandfather had tried to change, to build something legitimate from criminal roots. She'd finish what he started, however long it took, whatever it cost. The empire was hers now, not through violence or theft, through blood and sacrifice and choices that would haunt her forever. But it was hers, and she would make it mean something. Chicago glowed below. Snow fell. The world turned. And Selena Moretti, granddaughter of ghosts, inheritor of empires, survivor of wars she'd never asked to fight, stood at her window and watched the city that had tried to destroy her. It had failed. She was still here, still standing, still breathing. And that, in the end, was enough. The snow fell harder, covering everything, erasing footprints, giving the city back to those who lived there instead of those who tried to own it. Somewhere in a federal prison, Dominic Vale watched the same snow through reinforced glass and thought about promises kept and empires lost. Somewhere in Sicily, Vittorio Serrano learned that the Moretti heir had consolidated power and decided, for now, to leave her alone. Some battles weren't worth the cost. Somewhere in witness protection, former associates of her grandfather heard about the Vale Moretti Foundation and understood that the old ways were dying, being replaced by something new. The empire evolved, adapted, survived, just like Selena. She finished dinner with Ava, hugged her cousin goodbye, locked her office and walked through the building she now owned. Security nodded as she passed. Respectful, loyal, chosen carefully by Angelo to protect what they'd built. Outside, her car waited, driver ready. The ritual of wealth she was still learning to navigate. But tonight, she waved him off. I'll walk. Miss Moretti, it's snowing. I know, I want to walk. She set off into the Chicago night. Snow soaking through her coat, cold biting at her face. The city alive around her in ways it hadn't been when she'd served tables and counted tips. She walked past Constellation, the restaurant where this had all started. Through the window, she could see new servers moving through the crowd. Young, exhausted, invisible to the wealthy diners they served. She'd been one of them, 48 hours ago, or a lifetime, hard to tell which. A homeless man sat in a doorway, cardboard sign, empty cup. Selena pulled out her wallet, dropped $500 bills in the cup. The man stared. Lady, this is... Use it well, she said simply. She kept walking, through neighborhoods rich and poor, past buildings she now owned and buildings she'd never afford. The empire sprawling around her like a living thing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sophia. Where are you? Angelo's worried. Selena typed back. Walking, thinking, I'm safe, see you tomorrow. She turned off the phone. Just for tonight, just to be alone with her thoughts, and the snow, and the city that had almost killed her. By the time she reached her new apartment, smaller than the penthouse, larger than her old place, somewhere in between, dawn was breaking. She'd walked all night. Through the city, through her memories, through the choices that had brought her here. Inside, she showered, changed, made coffee, looked at herself in the mirror. The reflection staring back wasn't the girl who'd served pasta and worried about rent, but it wasn't a stranger either. Just someone changed, hardened, transformed by fire into something new. She could live with that. Had to live with that, because there was no going back, only forward, one step at a time. Building something her grandfather would recognize and maybe, possibly, approve of. The sun rose over Chicago, light breaking through clouds, illuminating the city in gold. Selena stood at her window, coffee warm in her hands, watching the world wake up. She'd survived. That was the victory. Everything else was just details. Behind her, her phone buzzed back to life. Messages flooding in. The Empire demanding attention. She'd answer them. Soon. Do the work required. Make the decisions needed. But for this moment, watching sunrise over the city that had tried to break her and failed, Selena Moretti allowed herself to simply be. Alive. Free. And ready for whatever came next. The snow had stopped. The streets gleamed. And somewhere in the distance, Chicago breathed its eternal promise. Survive long enough, and you could become anything. Even yourself. Selena smiled. Then she turned away from the window and got back to work. The Empire wouldn't run itself, and she had promises to keep.